The show where anything goes. Motivation, mindset, recovery, philosophy, and life. We become who we are through what we experience. We all have a story, and this is My Backstory with Josh Boyer.
There we go, man. The My Backstory podcast with Remi Adeleke. Did I say it right?
Adeleke,
man. Damn. I don't want to get blasted like your brother's teacher.
I was gonna say, man, you got back past that part already. You should know. You should know it.
I should know it, man. Damn it.
Yeah, it's all good.
Nah, brother. I'm so stoked that we're able to do this podcast, man. We're sitting here right above Universal Studios in California.
Yeah.
And
beautiful.
I want you to share your story, man. I'm reading in the book, as you know. Transformed, and it's an amazing book, man.
Thank you.
It is really, really good, and it helps that you're the one that's narrating it.
Yeah.
Because it makes you feel like you're really like in the story. You know, when you're telling certain stories in the book, it's like suspenseful, man. It's like, oh, dude, what's gonna happen? He's gonna get busted. Is the FBI waiting for him?
Yeah,
like, what's
man.
up? So
that's the way I tried to write it, man. I tried to write it like. Just give that. I wanted people to say, I want to find out what happens next.
Yeah, for sure, man. You did a great job with it, man. And I'm super stoked to like finish it.
Thank you.
So like I said, some of the questions I might ask you today, I might know the answer to, but I want the audience to hear it.
Easy day.
So yeah, man, I want you to share your backstory, man. What your upbringing was like, where you were born, growing up in the Bronx and then getting into the military. We don't need to go into all the operational stuff in the Navy. If you want to share some of that stuff, feel free.
Cool.
But yeah, man, this is your show, brother. So take it away.
Yeah. So I was, I think my story really starts with my dad's story. And one thing I tried to do was tell my dad's story as part of my story because his story is my story. Yeah. But my dad, his grandfather was a chief within the Yoruba tribe. In European culture, Western culture, we refer to royalty as king, queen, prince, princess, duchess, that type of thing. Right. In West African culture, specifically in Yoruba culture, we refer to royalty as chief. Right. And also as your name. So my last name, Adeleke, Ade means crown, Leke means is above. Right. So my grandfather was a royal chief within the Yoruba tribe. He had like 9 wives. Oh, wow. And my father was the firstborn son to my grandfather. So he was the first one who got the name Adeleke, first male who got the name Adeleke, which meant it was going to be passed on. And he took on the title of chief later in his life. Yeah. When my dad was 8 years old, my grandfather died. And so all the wives were pretty much dispersed. Most of them stayed up in the north of Nigeria. But my dad decided, my grandmother decided to move my father down to the south of Nigeria. So they moved south. And when they got to the southern part of Nigeria, there were Christian missionaries there. And they were teaching, not only were they teaching the Bible, but they were also teaching English, science, math, history, the arts, all of those other topics, Western education type topics to the kids. And my dad, he was able to pick them up really, really quick. He was able to memorize mathematical equations, books, all of these things. And the missionaries were all just blown away. Like, how is this kid like this brilliant? Fast forward, he ended up getting a full ride scholarship to study engineering in London. Oh, wow. And then he got his master's in engineering as well as architecture. And he just went on to create this massive enterprise in Europe and in the West. He was one of the first black men on the board of the World Trade Center in New York. He is the first black man on the board of the Planning Towning Council in Britain. I mean, he was just this brainiac businessman, able to figure out things in a way that other people couldn't. But after time, he decided, yes, it's cool for me to build wealth here in Europe and in the West, but what about my country? And he always viewed Nigeria as this place that could just be a beacon for all of the world to look at and say, wow, these people are educated. These people are way ahead of their time. These people are influential. That's what he wanted. He didn't want Africans to be viewed as a bunch of people who run around with spears in a bush. Right. He wanted to change the narrative. And so that's why he moved back to Nigeria. And in the 70s, he bought this massive plot of land called Mariko. And he paid £8 million for it. And his goal was to turn Mariko into this, like a New York City, into this vast, amazing, bustling city. But unfortunately, after he paid for it, the government said, You can't have it. And that's just the way the Nigerian government is. A very, very corrupt government. Right. I mean, all governments have levels of corruption within it, but the Nigerian government is that the corruption is to a whole nother level. It's blatant. It's like, we know you own this, but we don't care. We're the government, so we're taking it from you. Or we know that this money should go to this school, but we don't care. We're going to put it in our own pockets. That's just the way it is. And so the Nigerian government decided to take this land, Marico, from him, and he fought them for 10 years. And after 10 years, they came to him and they said, hey, what do you want? We're not going to give you back Marico, but we'll give you your money back or whatever else you want. And my dad said, I want the lagoon. It was this lagoon off of the coast of Lagos. And he said, that's what I want. And they all laughed at him because they were like, what are you going to do with a lagoon? And he said, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'm just give it to me. And so they laughed him out the court and gave it to him. And my dad, being a visionary and so ahead of his time, he hired a Dutch dredging company to dredge the foreshore off of the coast of Lagos. And my dad, essentially, long story short, he created this island, which is at the time was known as the Lagoon Development Project, but now it's known as Banana Island. So to continue on the story, within that time when he was working on Banana Island, he met my mom. My mom was American, is American. He met my mom at the Metropolitan Museum of Natural History, and then they ended up getting married 5 months later, and my mom moved to Nigeria with him. And my brother was born. I was born into wealth. I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I mean, we had it all. We traveled the world. We had cars. We had nannies. We had drivers. We had horses. We lived on a compound. We had dinners with dignitaries and presidents and all kinds of people from all around the world. I mean, it was a life that people dream of, right?
Where was that money coming from? Like where I mean, I know his dad was like, it came from like his dad initially, but like where did he acquire most of that wealth?
Well, the money didn't come from his dad at all. Because the money came from him, his businesses that he built up. He had an engineering company, so he worked on engineering projects all over the world. He also owned a few car dealerships in Nigeria. He had other firms, other businesses, consulting firms. I mean, my dad, he was self-made. Right. Because when my grandfather died, a lot of the wealth was dispersed, but it wasn't a lot to live off of. It wasn't like he could, he was going to have it. So he ended up having a story like mine in the sense where he had to start almost from nothing to build it up to where he built his life and finances up to. Yeah. So we had this amazing life. And in 1987, the Nigerian government, it was mainly the Lagos state government. They said that this lagoon that the federal government gave you doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the Lagos state government. You can't have it, which, I mean, when you look at the situation, you see the corruption within it, because they could have said that to him before he hired a dredging company, before he signed contracts with all of these other companies and to have stores or buildings on his property. They waited until the land was fully developed. I mean, we're talking about years of development. And once it was fully developed, they said, you can't have this anymore. This belongs to us. Now, my mom would tell my dad all the time, because my mom didn't trust the Nigerian government system. My mom would tell my dad, put money back in the States. Like, please put money in the States, because I don't trust the system. What's going to happen if they decide that you can't have this anymore? And my dad would always tell my mom, listen, my priority is Nigeria. Let's get this off the ground. Because in his mind, and he was right, if the Banana Island, if Lagoon Development Project succeeded, it's all that money that he put in would have been immediately started coming back to him. Right. Because he had developed buildings on this island. He had developed condominiums. He had developed mall spaces, office spaces, all of these things that would immediately started been rented out, and we'd have had money coming in forever. Yeah. The islands exist to this day now, and the nickname for it is Billionaires Island, because billionaires buy property on that island. They build houses on that island. It's like a place to be now. It's worth billions and billions of dollars. And so my dad knew that this would be worth that. And once it was developed, he wouldn't have to do anything anymore, right?
So crazy that he had that foresight to know that that's what it had the potential to be.
Oh yeah, he was a visionary. He was a visionary. And I think, that's where I get my, I don't call it, I say visionary skills from. I think it was inherited within my DNA. to see things that other people can't see, and to see, to see way ahead and not just look at the here and now and see the potential in the situation, and to be a SEAL, you kind of have to have that mindset, especially when you're going into a program where it's just like, dude, the statistics are against you, only 10 to 20% of guys make it, so you got to be willing to see past all of these things, all these obstacles, say, yeah, I see all these obstacles, but I see that I can make it, and so, get back on track. When the Nigerian government decided, they were going to take this from him, he went to court, he fought, he battled, and, he died. He died literally in the midst of all of that happening. And when he died, we essentially went from, he couldn't fight them anymore. So we went from rich to poor, like literally. Just like that, rich to poor, having absolutely nothing. And my mom was just like, there's no way I'm raising my kids here in Africa. So she permanently relocated us to New York City. We would go back and forth, but I won't give it away. I don't want to confuse the audience because it's all in the story how we ended up in New York. But yeah, we permanently relocated there, and that became our home, instead of Nigeria being our home. And yeah.
Did anything ever happen with that development when they took it back? Mm-hmm. I know your brother was fighting. He told your mom that, hey, I'll do whatever I can in my power to like get whatever I can back. Did they ever? Because I'm not at that point in the story.
I don't touch on it too much in the story, but the court case is still open.
Oh wow.
As a matter of fact.
So it's been like 30
years. And there's been my brother, I have a half brother, John, he's on the case. He's a lawyer. He's really, really ill though now. He had a brain tumor. They had to take this tumor out of his brain, so he's in bed. But there's another lawyer that's on the case as well. And I think the Nigerian government offered my half brother like 7-8 million like 2 years ago or something like that. And him being smart was like, do you know how much this is worth?
Yeah.
7-8 million for something that's worth billions, especially when you do the math on what 8 million pounds was worth in the 70s and what the equivalent of that would be worth now. So my brother turned it down. But the case is still open. And when I was writing the book, I had this crazy idea. I was like, what if this story, because a lot of people in Nigeria don't know this story.
Right.
A lot of the people that know this story, they're dying or they're dead. Yeah. But there's paperwork, there's documentation, and a lot of people in power, what they need, just like in any government, some people need to be shamed in order for them to say, okay, let's take a look into this or let's fix this situation. And as I was writing the book, this idea popped in my mind. What if like this book comes out and it just spreads and key people in the Nigerian government read it and they go back to the court cases, they open up the court files and they look and they say, wow, like this man was really wrong. Like, even though I wasn't around 30 years from now, I'm going to make this right. Yeah. So I had that idea. We'll see if it happens. But I'm not banking on it.
I mean, who would that go to? Would it be his next of kin? Like would it go to your mom basically? Because they were still married, right? When
they were married. So it would definitely go to the family.
Right.
And that's another interesting thing because my half brother, he's been on the case. So I don't know what would happen. Would he go directly to him? But I'm assuming, because you gotta remember, their government is different from our government.
Is he still there? Is he in Nigeria?
He goes back and forth. He's in London now.
Oh, okay.
He's been in London because he had brain tumor. He just got hip replacement. Wow. So, yeah, man. At this point, when I look at what that land is worth from a value, from a financial standpoint, if I would have had that growing up, I'd have had a completely different life. I want to be the man I am today. I think that all of the hardships that I went through and all of the lessons that I learned that have made me the man today are way more valuable. And I think that because of that, I have the potential to create way more wealth.
Right. With
my background, with my experiences, with the life that I lived, with my knowledge, than I would with that. And that might sound crazy, but
no, I think it's spot on, because I think, and I've said it before in other podcasts, and like, you connect the dots looking backward, and so you look back and you're like, man, if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't be where I am today.
No, not at all.
And I look at my own life and it's like, I can say that there were certain times in my life where I could have capitalized on something. I could have made more money. I could have had a different job. I could have like whatever, could have, should have, would have.
Yeah.
but I'm happy where I am, man.
Yeah.
Like, because if it wasn't for all these things falling into place, I wouldn't be where
you are. Yeah.
I'm sitting here talking with you.
Exactly.
So like,
exactly. Even the injuries you were telling me about, it
sure.
sucks. They're like 100%, man.
Yep.
But I mean, you want to be doing this.
That's right,
pushed
man.
you in this direction. And I look at my older half siblings, man, and all of them. Like the crazy thing is, there's only one of them that wanted to have anything to do with me and my brother, and that's the one in the book. The rest of them never wanted to have anything to do.
Why?
Just because they didn't like I think that part of it was they didn't like my mom.
Because she wasn't Nigerian? Or?
Yeah, she wasn't Nigerian. I think, I think it was some other stuff involved, but they didn't like my mom. They didn't like, and they never claimed me and my brother as siblings. Maybe they looked at my mom the wrong way because she was American. Maybe they thought that my mom was trying to get money from my dad, but my mom wasn't. My mom was not like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that, which will take me to the next part of my story, but my mom's not like that. So I think that because a lot of people were throwing themselves at my dad. You got to think he's a rich guy.
Right.
And my mom had no reason to do that because my mom was an attractive woman. She was a flight attendant making good money. She's an American.
Right.
Why would she move to Africa, out of her environment,
Right.
So it was true love. But I think that for them, they saw that they took it the wrong way.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
so they've never spoke to me, and they've never wanted to speak to me and my brother.
So you've tried to reach out to them and try to like make some kind of connection just to say like, hey.
No. Like, I mean, there's no way to. There's no
lines of communication.
There's no lines of communication. And my brother, the only had brother, he knew how they felt, so he never tried to connect us together. You know what I mean? I've always been open to meet with them and connect with them, but when the doors close, it's really hard to do that.
Right. You tight with your actual brother?
Oh yeah, my full brother. Oh, absolutely, 110%,
awesome,
110%. Like we're like, we're super close.
So when you came back from Nigeria and everything went south, your dad actually.
Sorry, I know I was getting it with my oldest. Sorry for cutting you off.
No worries.
They all lived a different life.
Right.
That's what I was getting at. They lived an easy life because they were born into the wealth and they had it all the way through their adulthood. All the way until they got into adulthood. So, they went to the boarding schools in London. They went to the finest schools. They went to law school. They went to accounting school. They had this, and so they had an easier life than me.
Yeah.
So they're a lot different than I am, versus me. I had a hard life. So that's sorry, that was the point I was trying to make.
That makes perfect sense too. Because if you got people that are coming from like a bougie type of, upbringing to a guy that grew up in the Bronx and struggling to make ends meet and hustling to get by.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably not gonna have much to relate by, what I mean, other than the fact that you share a father,
Yeah, absolutely.
So now I get that for sure. So why don't we go into that story? When you came from Nigeria, your dad actually, if I remember the story correctly, your dad stayed back in Nigeria because he had some things that he wanted to finish up. And so your mom was trying to tell him, like, I need you to come back to the States, and get back here. And he's like, no, I need to finish this.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting bit by a dog, right? And then
well, that was the thing. He had already gotten bit by the dog, and my mom was like, come to the States to get treatment.
Right.
But he couldn't leave because he's fighting the government.
Right. And
nobody else is going to fight it for him. And then on top of that, he goes to the hospital. He gets bad medication. And that's the thing, Nigeria, the medical system is so distraught. I mean, people go to the hospital with a broken leg and die.
Right.
That's not exaggeration. People go to the hospital with common cold and die. Like, literally, that is not an exaggeration. Like, the worst thing you could do is get sick in Nigeria. Everybody, I mean, that's historical fact.
Even if you have like a lot of money and stuff like that, it doesn't matter.
When you have a lot of money, you know what they do? They fly to UK, or they fly to the UK or fly to the US.
Wow.
The president of Nigeria, I want to say a few years ago, he got sick. He was in London for like 2-3 months. 2 months. Yeah, Buhari. He got cancer. He was in London for like 6 months. Wow. Something ridiculous. The Secretary of Oil, the oil ministry, she got sick, got cancer. She's in charge of all the oil, which, Nigeria, that's where they get the majority of money from. Yeah, oil. She was in London.
Yeah.
Because why do they do that? Because they know I'm not getting treated here in Nigeria. You crazy? You know what I'm saying? And so that's why my mom was telling my dad, get out of there. Come to the States, go to UK, get treatment. My dad couldn't, and he died as part of that. That was part of his death, was the fact that was on his autopsy.
Did they rule out any like foul play and stuff like that?
I know it was foul play. I know it was. Do they, again, when we ask that question, did they rule out foul play? You got to remember who you're dealing with. You're not dealing with a regular government like this. You are dealing with a corrupt. Ain't nobody ruling out nothing. It's just like Let's move on. He's dead. We got this land. Let's move on. That's what we wanted, you know? And so, yeah. But
crazy.
It is what it is, you know? But, you know, when we got to the Bronx, my mom, and going back to, you know, where I know my mom's heart is, and it was and is, you know, my mom could have easily, one of the first things she did after my father died was she called up her cousin, my uncle, and she was just like, yo, this is her on her side. Hey, my husband just died. I got not a nickel to my name. I don't know how I'm gonna pay for these kids' school. I don't know how I'm gonna pay for food. I don't know how I'm gonna pay for anything. Can you please loan me some money until I can figure out a job, get a job, because my mom didn't work. Yeah. And my uncle, you know, was like, hey, let me call you back in 5 minutes. 5 minutes later, his wife calls my mom back, and she flips out on my mom. She's just like, how dare you call up my husband and ask him for money? Like, who do you think you are calling up my husband asking for money? And she hangs up the phone on my mom. And you gotta keep in mind, my husband just died. She got 2 little kids, and now she gets kicked like that, you know, by her own family member. Yep. And my mom could have easily given up. She could have quit. She could have killed herself. She could have like written, because my mom is a very attractive woman. I mean, people think she's my sister now because she works out.
I saw her on Instagram, like getting down on
she works out. Yeah, she's super healthy, man. She's legit. And she could have easily went and found some rich dude to take care of her, but that wasn't her personality. Her personality was like, yo, I'm gonna get after it. I'm gonna do what I need to do to provide for my kids. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it. And so that's what my mom did, man. She worked multiple jobs. She was always working. I mean, my grandmother was a big part of my life. I wish I could have spent more time, and I tried to, but it just wasn't working for the story arc. Right. As I was writing, I was just trying to fit my grandmother in more, and the more I tried, the more it just
wasn't flowing right.
Yeah, it wasn't flowing right. And but my grandmother was like my mom.
Because that's like me and my grandma.
Yeah, you know the deal. She was like, I say this, I grew up in the Bronx, but I spent a lot of time in Washington Heights, right, which is, you know, not too far from the Bronx. And you know, that's where my grandmother lived. Yep. And I have so many memories from being at my grandmother's house, so many memories of like walking. My grandmother would be there when I got home from school, or she would pick me and my brother up from school. And then, you know, she would be with us until my mom got home from work. And then me and my brother would walk up to the bus stop. She'd take the bus, go back home. Like, she was a massive part of my life. Yep. And yeah, that's who pretty much helped raise me. And I can't remember how I got on my grandmother's topic thing. But anyway, because my mom was working so much. Right. You know, my mom was working so much. But
so how did she do it, man? She just had to work 3 jobs to basically provide for you guys?
Yeah, she worked multiple jobs. I mean, she would work at art galleries. She would take jobs during the summer because she was a teacher in the South Bronx. So when she wasn't teaching in the summer, she would take jobs at like museums, art galleries. Then she got into writing. She started writing resumes for people, term papers for people. People would hit her up, hey, I heard you're a writer. Can you help write this for me? And I think that's why my mom got me and my brother into writing, because she saw how like that provided extra money for her. Yeah. And she's like, dude, like so many people don't want to write. Like, you need to learn how to write, you know, write yourself. And she would make us pick out articles in the New York Times. And I would always pick the easy ones. Like, I would always pick the like ridiculously easy article. And then I would write it, and then she'd be like, nope, pick another one. And then I would write another report. But yeah, man, my mom did all kinds of jobs, man. And I remember me and my brother were kids. We started this. She was trying to like inspire us to be businessmen and to, you know, bring in some money. So we started this. She used her computer to print out these flyers, and the name of our business was B&R Aaron and Messaging Service. Right. So, you know, my brother's name is Bio. So B&R, Bio and Remi, Aaron and Messaging Service. So we would go around our neighborhood and like put the flyers on the people's door and tape them to the door and put them in the hallways and stuff like that. And we got a few calls and stuff like, hey, come wash this car. Hey, come do this. But yeah, my mom was always just trying to figure out a way to provide for us. Where
do you think that came from? Where do you think her hustle came from? Do you think it was from her growing? Did she grow up in the Bronx too?
Yeah, she grew up right across the bridge. Like literally like if this is the Bronx, if this is the building we lived in, she grew up like right where that white building is over there. Like that's literally, that's how close it was. Like she grew up right across the bridge from where I grew up.
So you think that's where her hustle came from?
Absolutely. Like my grandfather, he was always a hustler. Like my grandfather, on my mom's side, his brother died. His brother Bill died when Bill was like maybe like 35 or 40 or something like that. I think he got shot. Yeah. And he had 16 kids.
Oh,
yeah.
They didn't have a TV or what?
Yeah. All by him and his wife, Aunt Plum. So it was just all one woman, 16 kids.
Wow.
And
that's a lot.
And so when my grandfather's brother died, when my uncle died, my grandfather had to provide. Like he was like, these are my kids. Yeah. So my grandfather was always, everybody knows Uncle Matt. Like everybody tells me all that, oh, you look so much like Uncle Matt. You're so much like Uncle Matt. Because he would drive from Florida to New York, because a lot of families in New York take care of kids over there, come down to Georgia, take care of kids over there. You know, Aunt Plum be like, so-and-so's acting crazy up in New York. He would go up to New York, take care. I mean, my grandfather was like, he's a patriarch of the mom's side of the family. Like he's a legend in our family. And so I think my mom seeing that and see how not only was he a hard worker for her and my grandmother, but how he was like a super hard worker when it came, he had to be to provide for his brother's kids. You know what I mean? Right. And so I think my mom saw that, and that's where her grit came from. You know, and my grandmother was a really hard worker. My grandmother was a maid, you know, and my grandmother hated cooking, but she could clean she could clean anything spotless. And I think what she instilled in my mom was the importance of whatever you do it with excellence. Like my grandma was like, if you wash the floors perfect. Like they have to be perfect. If you iron sheets, it better not be a wrinkle. And like, that's how my grandmother was. Yeah. And so I think, you know, my mom got like the straight, you know, running through walls to just get it done thing from my grandfather. And then for my grandmother, she got the do it right. Because that's something my mom would tell me all the time. Like, Remi, whatever you do it right the first time. Do it right the first time. She would get on me about that. Right. And so, yeah, I think that's where she got it from.
Do you think, was your grandfather like a big part of like filling that void for you of not having your dad around?
Kinda, yeah. You know, he every time he came up, it was like Christmas for us. Serious, because he was like the man, dude. He was this big, like, he looked just like Ray Charles, too. Oh, really? Like literally, like just like exactly like Ray Charles. He was a tall, like I get my height from my grandfather. Right. Because my granddad, my father was like 5'6", 5'7". My father was short. Oh, wow. Yeah. So I'm 6'2". Yeah. You know, so I get my height from my grandfather. And my grandfather, yeah, man, he was, every time he would come in, Popeyes. Every time, like, because he moved, by the time I was like young and a teenager and all that, he had moved to Orlando. Yep. So every time he come up, the first thing in his hands, open the door, big box of Popeyes fried chicken biscuits. I love Popeyes. Oh yeah, I love it too. I can't eat it now, man. They had one on base in England when I was stationed there, man. Yeah. Like my buddies from Louisiana, I'm like, oh man, we gotta go hit a Popeyes. Yeah, I was like, I don't know anything about Popeyes. And they're like, oh, you'll know. Yeah, Popeyes. Red beans and rice. And red beans and rice. He used to get the French fries and just dude, those are all my memories. And he would always, it's funny, he would always put me on his lap, and my grandmother would do the same thing, be like, whose boy are you? Whose boy are you? Oh. And I'd be like, yours, grandpa, yours, grandpa. He's like, good, whose boy? And my grandmother, you know, because my grandmother got divorced. Right. And so, like, you know, she would see him and she would be like, whose boy are you? I'd be like, yours, grandma. But yeah, he was, you know, but he lived in Orlando. Yeah. And then he died when I was like, I think 13, 14. He died of cancer. And that was another thing, like the doctors told him he had like, it's like, you got like 2 months to live. He was terminal cancer. He lived like 6-7 months. Oh wow. You know, because that's how, like, he was old, but he was like this big, stocky, strong guy, even in his age, you know, in his old age. But yeah, man, he was a huge impact on my life. Big impact on my life. But, you know, the consistency wasn't there because, you know, he lived in Florida.
Proximity, for sure. Yeah. So what was it like growing up in the Bronx for you? Like growing up like in the streets? Because I mean, I said, I have a buddy that grew up in Hell's Kitchen, which is like him sharing stories with me. Yeah. I'm like, wow. You know what I mean? Like taking the train at like young age. Yeah. You know? Like he has a scar down his arm from getting like stabbed with an ice pick. And like, he's like, it was no joke. You know what I mean? Like it was the mean streets of New York. Yeah, it was crazy, man. They had this thing when I was growing up, $1.50. The train cost $1.50. And so what gangs would do is they would go on the train and point out a random person for in order for somebody to be initiated in the gang. Yeah. They would point out a random person, and the person who's being initiated had to just go up to that random person and slash their face from ear to mouth. And they called that $1.50. So when you got on the train, you always like looking around like, man, I don't want to get $1.50. I don't want to get, because literally that was the big thing. You didn't have to do anything. Or you could just look at them and then look over and they're like, that's him, go slash him. So, I mean, it was crazy, man. It was, you know,
I grew up in this environment called Fordham Hill, and there was some type of stability in there, but it was just 9 buildings and this one little co-op. But it was still crazy then in there too. We had crackheads robbing our house. Right. You know what I mean? We fights. It was like I grew up fighting.
Yeah.
To a lot of kids now, that's not normal. But to me, it was just like, you go downstairs, somebody says something, or you say something, or something happens, or somebody doesn't like you, and then you fighting.
Yep.
And you punching, and it's like, it's not like a little, it's like a fight, teeth getting knocked out, all that kind of stuff. So that's how I grew up. And then, just outside of the hill where I lived, that was my life as well. That was a big part of my life. And I walked through the park at night, 6, 8, 9, 10 years old, to go to the store for my mom. Crackheads everywhere. Yeah. You know what I mean? Drug dealers, drugs everywhere. You learn how to adapt in that environment. Totally. You learn not to look soft, because if you do, you're a target. But you also learn not to highlight yourself too much.
Right.
Because if you highlight yourself too much, you're going to be a target. You're going to get attacked. And so it's just this balance that you got to learn. You know what I mean? And yeah, man, it's rough, man. You don't trust people. Yep. I mean, people from the Bronx, it's hard for them to trust people out, everywhere you go, because it's like, you can't just trust everybody in the Bronx.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, dude, you sharing that story of you being in McDonald's and eating that food that you paid for.
Yeah.
You can't even trust a police officer.
You can't trust a police officer. No.
That's kind of where, for me, like reading that as a white dude.
Yeah.
Like I could feel for you. I was like, oh, dude, that's bullshit. That was complete bullshit the way you were treated. Yeah. And to know that that's like, it's a conversation that a lot of people don't want to have. It's a conversation a lot of people don't want to talk about because it triggers a lot of people. Yeah. However, it needs to be had because it still exists.
No, it does.
It's still happening, And that's not to say, dude, I love law enforcement. I love police officers and what they do for a living. I would never want to do it. And so my hat is off to them for sure. Yeah. But it needs to stop at some point because there are cases like with that one in your story where it's like, you're just a dude hanging out with your dudes. Yeah. You paid for your food. Yeah. You're a law-abiding citizen and you're being asked to like leave because you don't look the part that they want you to look or whatever.
Nah, it's crazy. And here's the crazy thing. Like, I was just in Times Square the other day for my press tour. And me and my assistant, I was like, dude, like we were walking through Times Square. I was like, let's go into McDonald's so I could show you, because he had read the book. Right. And literally, like, this is the upstairs part of the McDonald's where we went up to. And the crazy thing is, we walked in there and it was a security guard on the steps.
Right.
Just like when I was there, he was like, you can't go upstairs until you buy food. And I was like, yo, I know this is crazy. I wrote a book, like this McDonald's is in my story. Right. And he's like, no, I don't care. You can't go up. And so the manager was standing at the bottom of the steps and he was like, what's going on? And I was just like, I wrote this book and I'm just coming back to show my sister this and that. And I was on the Today Show. He's like, oh, you on the Today Show? I was like, yeah, I was on the Today Show. He's like, all right. He looked up at the screen. He's like, he was on the Today Show, man, let him go up. So like literally, so it was the same. So that was upstairs, and I send you these if you want to plug them into the podcast.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Like that was the upstairs where I walked up first.
Right.
The steps, you see the steps right there. See if there was seating, but it was packed. It was flooded. You know what I mean? This was that downstairs area where we were waiting for the food in the corner, and the security guard was like right over there. This is how it was. It's the exact same layout, but it was more flooded with people.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the Times Square. That was it. That was a staircase went upstairs. That's my sister right there. But that was it, man. Wow. And that was in front of, so like, and the crazy thing is, we went in there and the manager, after I told him, he's like, it's crazy because we shutting this McDonald's down in 30 days.
Oh, wow.
He's like, the new one's opened up like one block up, so this is getting close. I was like, wow. I was like, at perfect time. I came here to be able to take these pictures and videos in that McDonald's. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, I saw a lot of, and that was the thing, man, growing up. And that's why I hated cops.
Yeah.
Because like, as a kid, because I saw a lot. See, one thing that people don't understand, until you live in that environment and see it and experience it, you can't really speak to it. Right. And I saw cops do, one thing that I learned early on as a kid in the Bronx is that police officers are human beings. Yeah. Because like early on, you put them on this pedestal, they're police officers, they're the law, like they're gonna do everything right. They're gonna be absolutely honest. Like there's no errors in them and all.
Yeah.
But man, I saw like crazy stuff. Like in the train, I saw cops slamming people on the ground, on the concrete for no reason. I saw like cops like flip out and like curse out people and like get rid, like stuff that shouldn't be done.
Right.
And so when you see it so much, you're just like this is normal.
Yeah.
And if this is normal, I don't like these people. You know what I mean? I saw a lot of stuff happen. That McDonald's story, you know, that's in my book, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There was so much other stuff that I saw. Yeah. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, like the main thing I learned is, again, you know, everybody's human. You can't look at a police officer. You can't look at a lawyer. You can't look at a doctor. You can't, you know, you hear these crazy cases about doctors who do crazy stuff, right? And the expectation when you go into the doctor's office, they're gonna, you know, act in accordance with the medical laws and practices, but they giving drugs for no reason and then doing stuff. And, you know, so no one's perfect. You know what I mean? But at the same time, on the flip side, you can't look at one thing that 2 cops or 3 cops or 10 cops or 20 cops do and use that and say, well, every cop is like that. Or every doctor is like that, or every black person is like that, or every whatever is like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so it was rough, man. It was rough growing up, man. And I got jumped, I got robbed, I got beat up, I got, you know, you name it, I had it happen to me. I done ran away, been shot at it, you know, as a kid. Like all kinds of stuff happened, you know? So it was, but you know, I'm so grateful for the Bronx because, man, like between my mom and what she instilled in me, and then the Bronx just made me hard. It just makes you hard. like it's funny. I took my assistant there. He's a white kid from San Diego, and he was like with me. We were going to the Bronx. He's like, "Yo, this place is crazy." He's like, I could just tell from the people that they just like on edge and like, you know, they just got this grit about them. And I'm like, yeah, that's how you got to be when you grow.
Definitely more tense out there for sure.
Yeah, and to me, it was my normal. Yeah. You know what I mean? So when I got to, you know, I don't know, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but when I got to boot camp and the instructors would make it, even when I was in SEAL training, the instructors make it fun of you, playing games, mind games, calling you names and this and that. And kids are crying in boot camp, like literally crying. I remember my first night of boot camp, dudes was just weeping, like so many kids. I'm like, yo, what's wrong with you? And me, I'm just like, dude, my environment was hard. Like, this is nothing.
Yeah, you're just playing the game.
Yeah, just playing the game.
No, it's a trip, man. I went back to, like I said, the Hell's Kitchen to hang out with my buddy, and we ended up getting into a brawl in Manhattan. And he's older than me, so I'm 37. At the time, I was probably maybe 30. Yeah. And so he was probably 37. Yeah. And man, like it turned into a melee, dude. I honestly thought I was gonna die. Like while I was out there, man, it was pretty bad. But there's a grittiness to New York, like to old school New York. A lot of it's changing because they're gentrifying a lot of the areas to where it's becoming more yuppie, like
hipster.
You know, hipster type deal. But there's still like guys from the old neighborhood come back and stuff like that, and it's definitely a lot of grit to it. And man, so I see him and I'm like, so I get you now, man. I understand like what you went through. Like, cause for me, I grew up, a portion of my life was in Rialto. I don't know if you know about Rialto, but it's like east of here. And in the neighborhood I grew up in was predominantly African-American. So like it was my mom who was a single mom and my brother and I, and then my sister came along, but she was a single mom, you know, it's like we were like the only white family in the whole neighborhood, you know? So same thing, dude, grew up getting jumped, getting like shit stolen from me, my bike stolen, my Nintendo, like, I mean, just everything. So when you grow up with that, you kind of have like a survival mentality of there's a shell that's around you. You're a little bit more high strung.
Absolutely.
And even as an adult now, I'll see myself like just being all tensed up. And it's like, what am I tripping about, dude? Like, relax, you know? And I remember at work one day, my boss told me, he said, you need to lighten up. And I was like, man, it was like getting hit in the chin because he was right. But there's times where you're just so tense because you're expecting the unexpected all the time. It just becomes kind of who you are.
You're on edge.
But I tell you what, though, going through boot camp, same thing, dude. Like they were all dude. There was guys there was a dude that was going to hang himself.
Wow,
like, we had in our like bathroom with his shoelaces and stuff. And I'm like, Really, dude?
Yeah.
Like, dude, I mean, it's not that bad.
Yeah,
I get it. It's stressful, but like, it's not that bad.
I know.
And
you're eating 3 meals a day.
For sure, man. So like they asked me what they want. I was a dorm chief, which is like, I think they call it RPOC in the Navy, right?
Yeah, RPOC, yeah.
So I was a dorm chief in the Air Force, and they were like, well, what do you want us to do with this guy? What are you recommending, dorm chief? You know, they want to see what my leadership was.
Yeah.
And I was like, put his bed right next to mine.
Yeah.
And it was just my way of being like, dude, I will watch this dude. I will mentor him and let him know, like, dude, this is nothing. Just play the game, man, and graduate. So anyway, enough about me.
No, but that's good though, man, because it just shows that, your environment shapes you, man. How much your environment shapes you, you know, especially the kid who willing to hang himself. Like, what you ask yourself, I'd like to see that environment he grew up in.
Totally. Because I mean, if that amount of pressure is going to be enough to get you to want to off yourself, what that told me as a man and as a person was like, he must have had a cake life.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
And looking at the fact like you got 3 boys, I have 4. It's like, I look at my sons, it's like, I don't want them to ever have the life that I did, but at the same time, I don't ever want them to be soft either.
I know, exactly, yeah.
So it's like we have a...
That's funny because I had literally had to get on my wife about that all the time. I'm like, Jesse, listen, because she grew up different. Right. You know, she grew up, her family's wealthy. Yep. You know what I mean? And, you know, we are 2 completely different people.
That's what makes you guys perfect.
I know, man. I'm actually working I got this idea for this book that I've been taking notes on about, like a marriage book, not like a marriage as in like how to, but as just sharing our stories of how these 2 completely different people, I'm a SEAL, she's a doctor, like, you know what I mean, come together and just that story. But I have to tell my wife all the time, listen, Jesse, I'm raising these boys like to be men. Yeah. You know what I mean? Not little girls. Like, I'm raising them to be freaking men. So I need to be hard on them when it comes to certain things. I need to teach them the points of responsibility and, you know, keeping your word and integrity and, you know, all these things. And sometimes those lessons are going to come hard, you know? And so, like, that's something we deal with a lot.
Oh, for sure. And it's tough because my wife is she's similar to me in that regard where she allows me to do whatever I need to do to get the boys to be the way that I think that they should be as boys. And like one of those things that I honor now, because I'm like, oh, I guess I'm doing my job and my son's hearing me. My 12-year-old plays flag football. Yeah. And they give out trophies every week, man. And I didn't know I was going to be coaching his team. I had no intention of ever coaching it because I wanted him to have his own separate thing that he did. Yeah. Well, the coach didn't show up the first week, so they're like, hey, we need a new head coach. I emailed the coach saying, hey, I'll help you with like being an assistant, man. If like you need it, you know, whatever. He's like, actually, I don't want to do it anymore, so you're going to be the new head coach. I'm like, all right. So they give out trophies every week, and they handed me the trophy. I purposely don't go and pick them up at that little booth that we're supposed to go to because I don't believe in it. I'm not going to do it, man. You're like compromising my values, you know? But anyway, they sought me out last week and the week before that and gave me the trophies that I was supposed to hand out. Oh, wow. And I'm like, damn it, what am I going to do about this? So Brendan looks at me and he was like, Dad, you better not give me one of those trophies. Yeah, nice. Because, you know, I was like, well, because you know where it's going. It's going straight in the trash. Like, you didn't win, so you're not getting it, you know? And so that's
he's already getting it. He's already getting it.
Yeah, you know, he understands it completely for sure. So what was the catalyst? I mean, I know in the book you talk about you had like a hustle that you had with the phones that you were doing with the phones, and you're making money, and then you start your record deal, and like you're getting into the recording stuff, and then at a certain point, your mom tells you like, Remi, you need to get a job and get out of my house, right? Yeah. And you're like, I'm gonna go join the military, and that story actually of you going to join the military. There's so many stories that are like that where you go to one recruiter, they weren't in there, and then you end up going to another one. And so if you don't mind, man, going into that story of how like you ended up even going to the military and how you got into the teams, because it sounded from the point I got to, it seems like you didn't go with a Bud's contract, right?
No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I wasn't even supposed to get in the Navy, period. The road to the Navy was, that's a journey, and that's a story in and of itself. I mean, it kind of started, there were a lot of different pieces. It started with my hustle. Yeah. Like I was making tons of money, as you mentioned, and then I got sloppy and I made a deal that I shouldn't have made, and with this drug dealer, you know what I mean? And I sold him. Yeah, Devin. I sold him a bunch of stuff I shouldn't have sold him. And it went bad quick, and he pretty much threatened my life. And I knew this guy's reputation in the street. He was a killer. Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna be real with it. that's who he was.
Yep.
Like I knew his reputation, who he was, what he does, what he rolls with.
Yep.
So, you know, when he came and threatened my life, I was just like, I'm making this money back, which I did. And I was just like, I'm giving up this life. I'm not doing this anymore. But, you know, in doing that, I ran out of money. You know, my money ran out. You know, I went from making thousands of dollars a week to making no money, but still trying to make the record company thing work because I was funneling all of that money into the record company. There was nobody funding. There was only one guy who I grew up with, and he wasn't even part of the record company. He was just like a dude that was like, man, these guys are going to blow up and I want to jump on now. I think he gave me like a check for like $2,000. Like
an angel investor.
Yeah, an investment. Yeah. And, but other than that, I was flipping the bill on everything. And so my thing kind of like my dad, you know, my dad was investing all of this money into the island to make it work, yep. You know, with no plan B. And so I was investing all of my money into this record company because I was just like, this has to work. I don't have a plan B. Like I'm throwing all my chips on the table and this is going to work because if it doesn't, I'm losing everything. And the more I spent, you know, the more the money ran out and then eventually it was all gone. Yeah. And, you know, tried to get a label deal with Def Jam and that didn't work out. And the company just died. You know, company died. And so for like 6 months, I did nothing and, you know, trying to figure out what to do. My mom's complaining to me, get a job, this and that. And then finally, I was laying in my bed one day and I heard his voice speak to me, man. And it's clear as day. And it's like, this voice is like, you need to get out of here. You need to join the military. And, you know, it could have never been my idea in a million years because as I shared earlier, I hated the police. I really, really did. Yeah. And I hated the government. You know what I mean? Just the way I was raised in that environment, you just raised to, you grow up in a way where you don't trust people, and then when you see certain things happen on the news, then you're just yeah, exactly. You just run with it, and you know I associated anybody in a uniform with the police as the police. Yeah. Or as a government official that's doing harm to other countries or X, Y, and Z. And so I fought it. I was just like, there's no way I'm joining the military. And I hated authority. You know, I hated uniforms. I would make fun of the ROTC kids in my school. Like literally, I hated them. Right. They were just and they were always the most, and I'm speaking from the perspective of who I was then, they were always the most corny kids, right. Nerdy, corny, you know, uptight, you know, kids. And I didn't want to be that, right. You know? And so, yeah, man, after like some contemplation, after that idea popped in my head, I'm fighting. And then I look around in my room, I'm just like, dude, like, what else do you have left? Yeah. Like, literally, what do you have? Like, you failed at everything. Your record company's gone. You're not going to college. You can't afford to go to college. Like, and then I'm also laying low because there were people going to federal prison for what I was doing. So I'm like, you know, I need to lay low. What's going to happen, you know, with the crimes I was committing.
Did you really think, like, legitimately they were going to catch up to you with what
I did, man. I did, because the way I was doing it, everything was tied back to my name.
Oh, shit.
Because I was issued a license that I would use to call up and activate phones.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't using anybody else's license but mine.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I thought I was done.
Yeah.
Because there were people getting locked up, because I worked in that office building the story. There were people getting pulled out in handcuffs, going to jail for this kind of stuff. Right. You know what I mean? And because it's fraud.
Oh, yeah.
It's big time fraud. You know what I mean? And
how much were you making? Like, when you talk about making a lot of money, dude, how much were you making like a week doing it?
Depending on how many phones I make. I mean, I think I was selling, like, if it was a regular phone, a Nokia Snake phone, I remember the first like Nokia phone, he had the Snake game on it. Yeah. That was like $200-$300. Wow. Just one. Wow. And it lasts for 90 days. If we're talking about the StarTAC, the flip StarTAC one, $700-$800.
Wow.
Talking about a Motorola two-way pager, $500.
How many are you selling a week?
Shoot, I was selling 9, 10 a week, 11, depending on what and it wasn't one of those things where I didn't have to go search for it. Right. It was one of those things where everybody was coming to me like, I want one. I'm having to tell people, no, let me chill. Let's wait till next week. I already did a bunch. Wow. I was making crazy money.
And the company had no clue that like what you were doing?
No, because, and this goes back to you gotta remember, this is the early 90s. Cell phones just came out.
Yep.
So there was no real oversight. There was no oversight. People were just like trying to figure out how to manage these things and how to build these things. I mean, we gotta remember, this is a time when a $30 plan was like $50, $49.99 a month for 30 minutes.
And just trying not to drop a call, you know?
Yeah, and then after you go over 30 minutes, you're paying like $1.29 a minute.
Yeah.
Right? So you know, I was making crazy money. There's a point I was trying to make with that. Oh, the reason why I wasn't getting caught was because by the time the thing would even get investigated, I was long gone for the most part, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is, the first thing that would happen is I would run a person's credit. Now, as I share in the story, what I started doing was I got wise to the game, and I was just like, I can't use people who are going to check their credit, who care about their credit, all that kind of stuff. Right. So that's when I went to the hospice. I got connected with this dude who worked at the hospice. Yep. People dying. You dying. You ain't thinking about your social security card right. and your, you know what I mean?
Sad,
your date of birth. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you dying, and so if I take somebody's credit who's going to die in 10 days, yep. and I activate 3 phones on it, that's $900 if I'm selling the basic phone. Yep. Now, in 30 days, they're going to get their first bill. Yep. 30 days from there, they got to pay it. So you got 60 days. 60 days from then, after 90 days, it's not paid, it goes to collections and the phone cuts off. When it goes to collections, they send an investigator to investigate this dude that's been dead for probably 2-3 months already. Right. Family ain't thinking about that. So when the investigation starts on, yo, dude, you got these phones 90 days ago, got your signature here, ain't nobody that didn't answer to it. Right. You see what I'm saying? So if you're an investigator, where do you go from there?
Try to find out the source, like who filled it out, where the phones come from.
Yeah, you can find out, you can trace back, but at the end of the day, that's how I was getting away with it. Yeah. By the time, it's just like, you could come to me, and another thing I would ask for was a driver's license. Yeah. Because I had to have a picture of the driver's license. You scan the driver's license, that was proof that this person signed or whatever.
Yeah, so proof that they didn't.
And also at the time, it didn't have to be the person whose credit it was. Right. So somebody's nephew could come up to me and be like, hey, I got my uncle's ID and this and that. Let's get this phone. And I'd be like, Roger that. As long as can you sign for him? Yeah, I can sign for him, boy. Wow. So I'm free and clear. Yeah. But see, how other people were getting caught was they weren't using, going back to my dad being a visionary and thinking way ahead. Yeah. In my mind, as soon as I started the game, I was just like, I can't use people's credit who was alive. Right. I'm thinking ahead. I'm thinking if I do, I'm a hustler. If I do that, I'm gonna end up getting smashed. Yeah. So that's why I'm like, I need people who are going to die, or people who are old who have no clue. And I'm not making a joke of this in light of this. I'm just like, trying to explain.
It's brilliant, but at the same time, it's like we can laugh at it now, like as grown adults, and be like, "Damn, man, the shit we do," and like, we're lucky, dude. Like, you're lucky that you didn't get popped.
I know.
Is there any way that they come back now and be
people ask me that all the time, man? I don't know. I mean, can they? I'm sure they got the company's gone. I use a fake company name. Right. So obviously I'm not using a real company name, but that company was a real company and they went out of business years ago. I think so. I think I'm good. And then,
was your brother involved with any of this stuff?
Nah, hell no. My brother was completely different from me. My brother was, people used to call us Pinky in the Brain.
That's funny.
Because my brother, he was the goody two shoes, good boy. As a matter of fact, he had a huge, like how my turning point was getting caught up with Devon and, almost getting killed and all that stuff happening. That was my turning point. My brother's turning point was when he was like 12, 13 years old. He came home from school and my brother stuttered. When he was young, he used to stutter so bad. He used to stutter really, really bad. People used to make fun of him. And he brought a report card home from school and he had failed like think like every class. And my mom like broke down crying. I mean, it was like one of those days where it was already a bad day for my mom. Yep. And she's struggling and she just broke down and she was like, Bio, like, cause he's older than me, he's a year older than me. Like, you need to make it. Like, I can't believe you failed. Like, Bio, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm struggling. Like, I need you to, and she's just like bawling, screaming, crying, not screaming at him, but just bawling. Like, she just, my brother, it was a perfect storm. And it shook my brother to the core, man. It shook my brother to the core. So when that happened, my brother was like, Chet, when I was out in the streets playing, he would be in the library.
Oh, wow.
Dude became a genius. He graduated from high school in 3 years. Stayed an extra year to do all AP classes his last year. Got a full ride academic scholarship to Syracuse University to study engineering. Graduated in 3 years.
Wow.
His bachelor's at Syracuse University. Got a scholarship to get his master's in computer science engineering. Finished that in a year.
Jeez.
Yeah, man. So my brother was different. He had that one situation really shook him.
Yep.
He's a genius.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, genius.
Super cool.
Yeah.
So when you leave and you go to the recruiter and you meet that Puerto Rican
Tiana.
Petty Officer Reyes, right?
Yeah. Her family sent me pictures, man, because I'm so tight with the family now, you know.
That's really cool.
She died, and her daughter Sierra.
She died?
Yeah, that's a big part. If you read it's not in the book story. It's in the author's note. I didn't find out she died until I finished writing the book. And my mom was like, Remi, you know what's gonna happen? Like, you're gonna be somewhere doing a book signing, and so I had a different name for Tiana because I had forgotten her name. She's gonna show up and she's gonna say, hey, remember me? I'm the one that got you the name. I was like, yeah, man, but I forgot her name. And so as soon as I said that, like, this thought popped in my mind, oh, I know where her name is. I had got my military record when I got out the military. And so I ran into this hallway and pulled out the folder and I went through all the papers and I found her signature. I was like, Ma, I found her name. Because literally after, you know how it is, you go in the military, like, life happens, things happen, you forget people's names. Like, I had forgotten her name like a 2 year. And I remember the first time I went back to go see her, she wasn't there. So anyway, when I finished writing the book, when I found her name in my record, after I finished writing the book, I Googled her name and this memorial page came up. She had died like 4 years after sneaking me to the Navy. She died of a super rare autoimmune disease.
Wow.
And so in the author's note, I tell the whole story of how I found out she died, and I tell the whole story of how I got connected with her family, because that's a crazy story in and of itself. And then I share how, and then at the end, I put a link to her John Hopkins, because she you know, to the John Hopkins Institute, where they have this fund in her name to help try and find a cure. They still don't have a cure for this disease. She died.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's heavy, man. For sure.
Yeah.
So go into that story though, man. How you go to the recruiter. I kind of set it up where you go to the Marines, right, first, and you see the Marine cut out, and you're like, man, that's me. I'm gonna be a Marine. Forget the Navy.
Yeah.
And they weren't there, so then you end up going to the Army guys. You talk to them for a minute.
Yeah.
And then you end up going down to the Navy deal, and you meet Tiana.
Yeah, meet Tiana. And, I'm like trying to mac on her because she's a beautiful woman, and she's like, yeah, whatever. And she's from the Bronx, so she got that Bronx Puerto Rican attitude, you know, so she could hang with me. And then she has me do a practice ASVAB test, which I passed. Yeah. And then she ran my background. And when she ran my background, she found out I had 2 warrants out for my arrest. And that really shook me to my core, because I was like, man, this is it.
The damn phones.
Like, that's what I thought. Like, literally, that's what I thought. I was like, they got me. They've been looking for me. It's a wrap. I'm going to the box. Like, it's over. I'm just like, when I get nervous, I get hot.
Oh, yeah.
Like, seriously, man, when I get to this day, like, if something crazy happens, like, my body gets like 200 degrees. Yeah. Like, hot. Like my whole body gets hot. Or something, yeah. And that's what happened, man. Like, I got mad hot, and I'm just like, I get up and I get ready to get out of there. And she was just like, you got a suit? I said, no. She said, you got a collar, shirt, pants? I'm like, yeah, I could get some. She said, come back. I came back the next day, and she was in a dress uniform. She took me to both judges, the judge in New York, judge in New Jersey, stood there, was like, yo, this guy, he's made mistakes, but he has potential. Let's work with him. 9/11 just took place, you know, and the judges both unanimously expunged my record.
What was the warrant for? I don't know, but maybe you said it and I just missed it. What was the warrant for in New Jersey? Because I know New York was the McDonald's one, right?
What I wrote, I couldn't remember. So I think what I wrote, and from what I remember what I wrote in the book, I was like, I don't even remember what it was. I didn't remember what it was from.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even know what it's from. So I think in the book when I wrote it, I couldn't remember what it was from.
It wasn't a felony. That's all that mattered.
No,
right?
no, it was a misdemeanor. Something dumb I did. And so, yeah, man, what she did for me was huge because people, it's funny because I get some people who read that part of the book, recruiters do that all the time, but that ain't true, man.
No,
that is not true because...
Especially not at that time, man. It's especially not at that time. Everyone's going into the military. Yeah. Everyone's like signed up. They don't have time to be doing that.
They're getting their quota. You know what I mean? And I have so many kids who hit me up on Instagram, DMs, Facebook, who've heard that part. Dude, like, I'm in the same situation. I can't get in anywhere. No recruiter's taking me. No recruiter's letting me in. What did you do? And I have to tell them, I'm like, yo, man, I just ran into the right person. You know what I mean? Like, at the right time. You know what I mean? And literally, like, my cousin, who's in the book, actually, Corey, when we get shot at, he was young, one of my other cousins over his shoulder. He moved down to Atlanta to Columbus, Georgia, and was a teenager, grew up, became a teenager, did a dumb teenager thing, went to the mall, got into an argument with his girlfriend, and he said, if you don't do whatever, give my mom, I'm gonna blow this thing up. A cop heard him. Yeah. Got charged with terroristic threats. He ain't no terrorist. Like, literally, he's a knucklehead. He's a knucklehead wannabe thug, but he ain't gonna blow up a freaking mall. Right. But he got charged with terroristic threats. I can't remember if it was I think it was a misdemeanor too. And years later, he tried to turn his life around. I want to join the military because he had kids. No recruiter in Georgia, the state of Georgia, would touch him. As a matter of fact, they put his name on this list. And in this database where it doesn't matter where he goes, it's going to pop up. Yep. I paid for this dude's flight. I flew him out to San Diego. Took him to every recruiter. Nope. We see him in the system. Nope, none. So for people who say to me, oh yeah, like what she did was, other people do that and that's not the truth, man. Yeah. Because I know it firsthand and I get messages every day of it. And if that's the case, tell them cats who message me all the time, how can I get in the military? Yep. So yeah, man. So yeah, she did that for me and she went a step further because when you fill out your paperwork at MEPS, you have to disclose whether you've had a record that's been expunged, sealed, or anything. And she told me, don't say anything. She fudged the paperwork on her end, validating he has not had anything. And my record had got cleared so fast it didn't show up in the system by the time we got the maps. And that's how I was able to get in the Navy.
That's a trip.
That's how I was able to get in the Navy.
So you went in as a corpsman, right?
I went in as a corpsman. When I got to boot camp, and this part is not in the book, but when I got to boot camp, this Navy SEAL comes. He puts on this video, a presentation of what SEALs do, shows SEALs jumping from planes, scuba diving. That's when that dream kind of bubbled back up within me. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a SEAL.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. How long did you have to spend in the fleet before you went to Buds?
The first time, a year.
Yeah. So you went to Buds twice?
Yeah.
So tell that story.
Yeah, you haven't gotten to that part of the book.
I stopped. I ended it when I pulled up to the parking lot right now. Yeah. And you're at MEPS right now.
Yeah.
So you're gonna ruin a little bit for me because I'm like the book. I'm like, I can't stop reading it, bro.
We're gonna ruin it for the listeners too, man.
Oh, sorry, bro.
So I won't give it. I'll just say that I ended up getting kicked out of SEAL training the first time after making it through. I made it through first phase. I made it through Hell Week. I made it to second phase, die phase, and I'm right there. And my pride gets the best of me. Like literally, like in my mind, and I'm cutting through it so that I don't spoil it for the listeners. But in my mind, like after I made it through Hell Week, because that's the toughest part of Bud, 6 days straight, no sleep, 2 hours. What starts on Sunday ends on Friday. You get 2 hours on Wednesday, 2 hours of Thursday of sleep, and everything is just straight torture. And that's where you lose majority of the guys in class. It's Hell Week, and after I made it through Hell Week, it's just like I made it from Africa to the Bronx, made it through the Bronx. I made it through Hell Week. I made it in the SEAL training, made it through Hell Week. Hundreds of dudes quit, 200 dudes quit. I'm still here. Can't tell me nothing. That was my mindset. Pride. You can't tell me nothing, man. And that pride, man, that pride will kill you, bro. And that's what ultimately led to me getting kicked out of SEAL training. Right. And I got kicked out, went back to the fleet for 2 years, 1st Marine Division Infantry as a Navy corpsman, and then got my shot to go back, went back, and that's when I made it through.
And you had to do it the whole...
I had to start day one all over again. I had to go everything. And it was a run. I remember it was like 2 other dudes. I know there was one dude for sure, but it might have been another cat who we heard a rumor like, oh, if you made it through Hell Week before, you don't have to go through it again.
Oh, shit.
Like when we end out, it's like, you don't even have to go through first phase again. All you got to do is just get there, and then they're going to wait for you. They're going to give you a brown. I was like, yeah, whatever. And then get there and like start all over again. Day one. Watch.
So did you get through both times? Like the first time without washing out, without like getting medically rolled?
What, the first time?
Yeah, you didn't get medically rolled or anything?
When I got dropped? What are you talking about?
When you got kicked out, I mean for...
Yeah, when I got kicked out, yeah.
It is what it is, but I'm saying, but you didn't get medically rolled or have to go into another class or anything?
Not until the last phase of training.
Yeah.
3rd phase of training, I did get and I don't want to give it away, but I did get a roll for something, but then it was just one small thing, class back up, made it through.
So I got to ask you, man, I know that somebody made a comment to me that the military is racist because there's not that many, minorities in special operations.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm not special operations, so I don't know if I can't speak on this. I'm going to ask you about it. What's your take on it?
I want to say, I'll just put it like this. I think what it boils down to, I don't think it starts at the military level.
Okay.
I think that it starts at the education level, at elementary school. I think there is a level of information is power. Knowledge is power.
Totally.
You know what I'm saying? And if you have the knowledge about something, or if you know something exists, you'll be more inclined to go down that path. Yeah. If you have no knowledge or no awareness of something, then and you don't know it exists, how will you know to do whatever it is that you don't? How will you know to do it?
Right.
And so the way I look at it from the perspective of when I was growing up in the Bronx, there was no recruiters coming to talk to high school or elementary school talking about being Navy SEAL, be a Delta Force, be whatever, be this, be that.
Yep.
There was no Navy SEALs or Delta or Air Force Special Force or whoever coming to schools, especially coming to schools, period, and saying, this is what we do, here's how you get prepared, X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
Okay? So that did not exist. And so if that doesn't exist, then how will you know to go down that path? And then to go a step further, if you don't, like growing up in the Bronx, just like a lot of inner cities, when you see black athletes, nothing against them, just saying that. When you see black athletes, when all you see is black rappers, when all you see is black hustlers, drug dealers, whatever, you see that, so you like, that's what I could become.
Right.
But if you don't see black Navy SEALs, and that's why I wrote the book.
Yeah.
Like at some point I had to get over the fact that people are going to be mad at me from my community from writing the book. At some point I had to realize, I know my heart behind writing the book. It ain't to pimp the trident or beat my chest and say I was a SEAL, look at me. It was to inspire positive transformation. That's the heart behind that entire book. And I also wrote it because I wanted black, Spanish, minority, Indian, Middle Eastern, whatever, kids to look at me and be like, wow, like I never seen that before. And I get messages all, dude, I never heard of a black Navy SEAL.
Right.
Like the only SEAL I ever heard of is black is you and David Goggins. So those are only, I never even knew they were black Navy SEALs. Even when I was in the teams, like people who support units would be like, people who work support would be like, oh dude, you're a SEAL, you're black. Like people in the Navy, I would go places with my trident on because as a SEAL, you wear the trident on your uniform, and everybody was staring like I'm a unicorn, like it's this dude, like I'm an alien.
Yeah.
Because they're not used to seeing it. Yeah. So unless kids see it, they're not gonna know. So I think going back to your main question, is there racism in it? It could be, but I don't see it at the military level. I see it down at the educational level because the education system, which I talk about in the book, especially in the city, especially where I grew up, is horrible. I mean, the statistics as far as high school dropouts, the statistics as far as how many people from the Bronx go to college are not good.
Yep.
And my mom being my mom was a teacher in the South Bronx. So when I was writing, I really leaned on my mom a lot when I talked about that because I didn't want to say anything that was incorrect. And my mom will tell you straight up, this public education school system at the time, late 80s, early 90s, and I hear it's still the same today, sets kids up in the city for failure.
Yep.
The resources are not there. The books are a mess. Teachers show up and they don't really care. They just have to be there.
Expectations are low.
Expectations are low. You're not getting the best teachers.
Yeah.
You know, and so if the system that you're growing up in is corrupted, how could you even be not even just a SEAL, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Another thing is, reason why I don't think a lot of kids, minorities, going to soft is, again, going back to the education standpoint, and I can speak to this with fresh lenses because I have a buddy of mine, he's a recruiter in Philadelphia, and we were in Navy boot camp together. We were in Navy Corps school together. Good dude, solid dude, and he's a recruiter in Philadelphia in the hood, and he's just like, yo, Remi, he's like, man, I go to these schools to try and these kids can't even read or do math in high school.
Yep.
He's like, and I'm trying to get them and they want to join the military to get out of the hood, but they can't, like the education is so bad at some of these schools I go to that these kids are not even equipped to even attempt to take the ASVAB test. And then he also said, but listen, my kids, because I'm in the Navy, we live on the other side of town in the suburbs. I go to their school, and at the freshman level, these kids are doing math and science and stuff at the senior level and getting prepared for college.
Yeah.
So if your school is not setting you up academically, because you can't be a SEAL and be an idiot. You can't be Delta. You can't be Air. You can't be MARSOC and be an idiot. You have to score really, really high on these ASVAB tests in order to qualify to even try out for these programs.
Yeah.
So if the education is not there, you're not even going to be able to qualify. And if we're talking about SEALs in general, the swimming piece, ain't no pools in the Bronx.
That's what I was going to ask you too,
you know
man,
what I mean?
because I think there's like maybe it's a stereotype, but like the dudes that I was stationed with are African-American.
Yeah.
Like, they don't swim.
Yeah.
They're not into the water. They don't swim. I don't know if that's a cultural thing, if that's like black people don't like to swim or whatever. My wife and I looked it up the other night because I heard that, because my stepdad used to tell me he was Hispanic, but he used to tell me he was a Marine, and he was like, yeah, when I was in boot camp, the black dudes that were there would like sink.
Yeah.
They're like negative buoyant. You know what I mean? Like their bones were denser and like their body fat was like non-existent.
Yeah.
And do you think that plays a part in why there's probably not as many African Americans in special forces, because they're scared of the water? What is that?
Well, I mean, I'm just speaking from the SEAL perspective, because SEAL perspective, I mean, I don't know how aquatically sound you have to be for the other special forces.
Well, no, like pararescue is pretty big. You know what I mean? Like NDOC is huge.
Okay. But I know for SEALs is big. I think, man. I mean, I think the water thing, man, it X's out a lot of people, black, white, Spanish, because the stuff they make you do in the water is like crazy.
Inhumane.
Like literally, I mean, you got to swim with your hands tied behind your back and your feet tied together.
Right.
You got to float with your hands tied behind your back and your feet tied together.
Right.
You got to swim down 15 feet, pick up a brick, and swim it all the way up on one breath.
So how did you get to that point? I mean, you say in the book that like you weren't a swimmer. Like you said, there's no pools in the Bronx.
Yeah.
So how did you get from like a kid that has no pools, no experience with swimming, to being a Navy SEAL?
Because I wanted it. I mean, like for me, I wanted it, and like I was willing to do whatever. And this goes back to my dad and his this mindset that he had. You know, when he had this vision. I want to create an island. People like, you're stupid. Like, how you're a human being? How can you create an island? They laughed at him when he asked for the money. Wow. I came from an environment where I didn't know how to learn how to swim. I want to be a SEAL. People like, you stupid. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I was like, okay, roger that. I just put in the work, man. I just did the extra hard work. I didn't have a car. I run 3 miles to the pool, jump in the water, try to figure it out. Run 3 miles back home, watch video, go to the pool, talk to the lifeguard. Yo, what am I doing this right? Get in the water. Over
This before you went to boot camp?
Before I went to Buds.
Oh, wow.
Before I went to Buds. And I just did the work, man. Sometimes I look back on it, I'm just like, I ask myself, damn, how did you freaking do it? But I just did the extra hard work, man. That's what I try to tell people all the time, man. When you have a deficiency or something, especially as it relates to something that you need for your dream, you just got to do the work. You just got to do the extra hard work if you want to accomplish that dream.
Right.
And I did the extra rain, sleet, snow, cold, hot, pain. I went to the pool.
Yep.
And
I think that's part of the problem, right, with our society is that a lot of people don't want to do the work. They want a quick fix. They want to get that Trident like right away. They want to get whatever it is right away.
Yeah.
They don't want to put in the work. And that's why they're probably not going to accomplish much. You know, just go through the motions of being the rat race you know, for the most part. How long were you in the teams for? 7
years.
Shit. Yeah. And then what was the catalyst for you getting out? Why'd you decide like it was time? Yeah.
Kids, man. I had a great career, man. I mean, I got to do a lot of cool stuff, bro. And getting out for me was really, really hard because I enjoyed the job so much. It was that literally was one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make in my life.
Yep.
But my sons, man, my dad died when I was 5.
Yep.
You know, and so for me, and I know how that affected me in a very, very negative way. You know, not having a father, not having a man to teach me how to be a man, not having a man to say, yo, this is not a man, this is a man, not having a man to provide and a positive role model to teach me how to respect women, all these things affected me. And so now as a man, I had to make a decision. Do I lead this career I love, you know, or do I be in my kids' lives as much as I can to teach them how to be a man? Because for me, man, from what I know, is it starts young. I mean,
totally.
It's not, 6, 7, 8. Now I'm gonna get it starts small. You got to really start instilling these principles in your kid as from time they can start walking, even before that.
Totally.
And I needed to be with them as much as I could. Like and that's my every day. That's my goal. It's like I do not want them to go down the path I went down. I don't want them to ever have an excuse to have gone down the path that I went down. You know. So yeah, that was why I got out, man.
It's a trip because it's quite the conundrum, I think, for a lot of guys, not even just in the SEAL community, but just in life, right? That, like you want, I was talking to my cousin about the other day, her husband's in the Army and like he has an opportunity to get deployed and do like a personal security detail. And she's like, but he'll be gone for like 1.5 years, you know?
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, man?
And it's possible.
It's cool. Like you can do it. Like it's good that he has a woman that's willing to allow him to do that.
Yeah.
However, they have 2 kids. Yeah. And so I'm like, listen, like I'm 37, I'm older than he is. And I'm like, most of the people that I've done podcasts with that have been special forces, that have been all around the world, done really like amazing things. One of their biggest regrets was putting the military before their families. Yeah. Because it's time you can't get back. Yeah. And so you have to find that balance. Like, and I had that like struggle the other day. Like my mother-in-law had like a heart issue where she had a, something happened with her heart where she had, like was in tachycardia or arrhythmia or whatever. She had to shock her heart 2 times to get it back into sinus rhythm. Wow. And I'm at the airport and I'm flying to North Carolina to do a podcast. Yeah. And I was sitting there and it's like, I won't say that I'm a religious guy, like per se, I don't go to church and stuff like that, but I believe in a higher power. I believe in a God, whatever you want to call God. Yeah. And something was talking to me, telling me, do not get on this plane. Wow. Yeah. Do not get on this plane. Yeah. And I hate to admit it, man, but there's been plenty of times in my life where I'm so driven and I'm so ambitious to keep doing what I'm doing that my family suffers as a result. Yeah. And I was sitting there thinking, I was like, man, like her mom's in the hospital. She's got my 4 boys at home. She's by herself. Yeah. And I'm a man on a mission. Yeah. And dude, I had already checked into security. All my stuff was done. Yeah. They were boarding our plane. Yeah. I had my ticket in my hand, getting ready to go up to the thing, and I just turned around and walked out. Yeah. I'm not doing it, man. I'm going home to my family. Yeah. You know, and awesome, I'm gonna disappoint some people and let some people down, but I can't let my family down. Absolutely. And that's kind of that's awesome, man. That's been a big lesson for me, though. It's not like you would think that would be the norm, you know? But guys, I think we get so stuck in this, like almost in a selfish mindset of like, I'm driven, I got to provide for my family and this and that, but you also got to be there for your family, you know? No, absolutely. And finding that balance for me has been a big deal.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting you say that because I was on a plane when I was flying back from New York, and I was sitting next to this millionaire. As a matter of fact, he's told me he's part of this organization where your personal wealth has to be at a minimum $70 million. And we were talking about the family work dynamic, like how does that work? And he was telling me how he has so many regrets. I think he was saying his son is like 22, his daughter's 26. And he said, man, I have so many regrets, but I had to be a way to build what I've built. And he said, in this organization, there's a lot of billionaires in it. And he said that he's found that the wealthiest billionaires or the wealthiest guys in this group that he's in are the guys who were so disciplined that their discipline led them to spend the adequate amount of time with their family.
Interesting.
I found that interesting. He's like, the guys who were like, I'm cutting off the cell phone this time. I'm not taking this job because I need to be at my kid's graduation or I need to be here with my family. He's like, those guys are the wealthiest.
Wow.
He said there's other guys in the group where they were like me, like, sorry, kid, I got to go to this meeting. Sorry, kid, I got to fly here. Sorry, kid, I can't make this baseball game or whatever. He said, yeah, we're still rich, but we're not as rich as the guys who spent that quality time with their family.
Interesting.
And I was like, wow. I was like, that's crazy. And
I would never think it was that way. Because I think we're brought up to think that the opposite of like, no, in order to be wealthy, in order to have all these things, like you need to like put your career first and this and that, and you need to grind it out.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, so like I always had that in the back of my head. I still do. Like where it's like, man, I can't miss this podcast. I can't miss this opportunity to meet with somebody because like whatever. It's like, yeah, my kid's graduating 6th grade, but you know what? I got something else going on. It's like, no, man.
Yeah.
No.
Well, you know what? The thing is, I think that the reason why that's the case with the guys, and again, this could have been, I'm just telling what he said.
Right.
So I'm not here telling, obviously family is important. I'm just telling you what he said. So, I'm not a professor or anything giving you like, some edicts or some do this and this is going to happen.
Right.
But I think what it is I think that if you can be so disciplined, if you can be disciplined in something that's hard, that's just going to build your discipline for your business.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
And, and I use the whole marriage thing, marriage is hard.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like marriage is really, really hard. I just been married for going on 8 years and it's hard. And it's hard to stay in it, especially when you fought. It's hard to stay in it when, I'm just going to be real, when other women are throwing themselves at you and you have all of this money and things are going bad at home. It's hard to stay in it. But the more disciplined I am to stick with my marriage, the more disciplined I am in other areas of my life, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
And so, I think that, from what he was saying, I think I kind of get it. If you could be disciplined in putting the cell phone away, to spend time with your family, then that's going to hone that discipline for when you have to do a business deal where you have to get something done. Now you're even more focused on that thing because, does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, because I was talking to my wife about that and and now you're saying it makes like, oh, wow, that's funny. I was just talking to her about that.
Yeah.
That when I'm traveling and stuff like that, there's times where we're fighting, what I mean? She's frustrated, she has kids at home and like whatever. And let's just be real, dude. It's not perfect all the time.
It's not a fairy tale, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. And there's times where it's like, you're not as intimate you'd like to be as a man, you know what I mean? And this and that. And so it's like, and then I'm traveling.
Yeah.
Temptations are there. I'm all over the country. I'm by myself, you know?
Yeah.
But I refuse to go down that road because it's like if I open up that Pandora's box, now I'm like cheating on my wife, I'm cheating on my kids,
exactly,
and ruining their lives as well in the process. And there is a discipline to that. And like I'm not asking for a cookie for not cheating on my wife. I'm saying that there is a discipline to that because there is some primal biological like things going on that's like, man, it'd be easy for me to just give into temptation, throw it all away. And I was guilty of that when I was younger, man, of just sabotaging everything, because it's like, fuck it, it's gonna go away anyway.
Yeah.
But no, so that's interesting you bring that up about the discipline.
Yeah.
So what are you up to now? I mean, I kind of know with the book and stuff like that, but what are you doing now?
I'm a writer, man, now. So, I wrote the book myself. I didn't use a ghostwriter. I didn't have a co-writer, none of that stuff. Like 100% me.
Did you send it to your mom to like edit it for you at all?
No.
Oh, wow.
There's a whole story to it. I kind of shared, there's a wisdom capture videos that I did. In the wisdom capture video, I break down how the whole writing process went down. And then even when it went to editing, like the editor who the publisher hired, I remember the first call, she was like, Remi, this is so crazy. Like when the publisher sent me your book, your manuscript like 2 days ago, and I read through it. And when they hired me to rewrite your book because they didn't know what they were going to get. And you're a first-time writer, first-time author, but it's not even much that needs to be edited.
That's awesome, man.
So literally,
what a compliment.
Yeah, man. And it was because and there's a lot to the story. Like I had like me and my publisher almost went our separate ways for a lot of different things, and they didn't want me to turn in the book because they didn't think it was going to. It's a whole story behind it. But anyway, yeah, man. So that was super encouraging. So after I wrote the book, that kind of gave me confidence as a writer. You know, like, because I've done speaking, you know, I've done teaching people how to hold guns and consulting and all that kind of stuff. But because I'm confident in that, because I've done that before, but, you know, it built my confidence as a writer. And so after I finished writing the book, I was like, man, actually, before I finished writing the book, like people would come to me, like in the industry, like, you know, there's a major studio who came up to me and was like, hey, dude, like, you know, I won't mention names of people, but we want the rights to your book to turn into a movie. Wow. And I was just like, again, thinking like my dad, thinking way ahead, thinking far. I was like, okay, if people are coming to me now for the rights to my book and I haven't even finished writing it yet, what's going to happen after I finish writing the book? And when I saw what's going to happen when the book comes out? And when the book comes out, what would happen if I had more than just a book? What if I had some films that I wrote? To be able to say, yeah, I got this, but also got this. And so taking that experience with the studios and then gaining the confidence as a writer, I was like, I'm gonna write films. So I wrote my first film, espionage thriller, and it was an idea. It's very loosely based off of a chapter in the book. You haven't gotten there yet, but it's called The Chameleon. That's the name of the chapter in the book, and that's the name of the film. And I wrote it. I was just like, let me see if this sticks. And I sent it to people in the industry, executives in the film and TV industry, and people who I know, other writers, and they all read it, and hands down, like across the board, the reviews were just like, wow, like this is awesome, amazing. Man. Like, we can't believe you wrote this. Like, this is going to be made. We see this as a huge franchise. I mean, like the messages kept coming in and I was just like, cha-ching. I'm like, I'm on it. Okay, this is the next route, right? Yeah. And so I did a bunch of rewrites on it and actually waiting, kind of being a bit strategic, waiting for the book to, you know, be out for a little bit, traction, you know, and then take it to market and sell that. And then I started writing another film about one of the first group of African Americans to serve as special operations. Fantastic, phenomenal story. One of those hidden figure stories that, you know, I never knew existed. Majority of Americans don't know exist, but need to know exist. And so I'm working on that film now.
That's awesome, man.
And then I got another film that I want to start writing after that, and then I got another book idea, the marriage book, and then I'm working with my mom on her book, the prequel, which is a prequel of my book. You know, is where we really focus on that. You know, her love story with my dad and more of her backstory, and you know how she ended up. You know, because my mom's story, dad's story is like the real coming to America with Eddie Murphy. So like literally, definitely. Like it is, because my mom was this American New Yorker, beautiful, you know, flight attendant, you know, and then she meets this African prince and he's like rich and all of this stuff. And then she moves to Zamunda and all Nigeria. But so I've been working with my mom on that book, helping, you know, she's the main writer on it. I'm just like massaging it and polishing it for her.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah.
So like it's super cool to watch, like, you know, guys that get out of the military, you know what I mean? You never know what angle they're going to go with, you know, whether it be like the consultant, like shooting instructor, or it's like, no, you know, I'm going to do something creative, you know? So it's always cool and refreshing to see like a veteran get out there, especially special operations, like, no, I'm going to be an author and I'm going to write scripts for movies and so that's super cool.
Thanks, man.
As far as like the book, can you talk to people who are out there that want to write a book? Is it like something where you got like in advance to do a or is it something that you were like, you know what, I'm gonna write the book and then what the sales do is what I get type of thing?
No, I got advance. I got a big, little bit below half. I would say, I just know legally there's certain numbers you can't throw out there, but I got a 6-figure advance.
Okay. And so with that advance, do you have like a contract that goes in there for a new writer to say like, based on how many sales we get, you get a percentage, the publisher gets a percentage? Is that how that
so
works?
The way it works is like you get the advance. I'll just throw out the number. I got $275,000 advance. So I got this advance. The first you get. I got $100,000 upon signing the contract, and then once I turned in the manuscript to the publisher and they approved it, then I got like another $85,000. I got $85,000, and then once the book published, which was last week, I got another 85,000. So that's 275,000.
Sweet.
Now, that's an advance, which means I got to pay that back. But that payback I don't pay that back out of my pocket. That comes through sales.
Okay.
So as my book sells, then what I would get, the percentage of what I would get, which is, I think it's like 15%, something along those lines, that percentage pays back the advance. So once the advance is paid back, then I get everything. I keep everything.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, because there's a lot of people that talk about having a publisher or being self-published, because it sounds like 15% for a book that was like your heart and your soul and like whatever. It's almost like, do you regret that? Do you regret having a publisher at all and not being self-published?
That's a whole conversation, man. It's hard. It's not easy when you have a publisher, but at the same time, it's a trade-off, right? Yeah. So it's either you get massive distribution. Yeah. You get marketing, a marketing team, a PR team, which I ended up hiring my own PR team.
But they're paying for that, though, right?
No, I paid for my PR marketing team because that's a whole nother story. But the money, again, the money helped me to pay for the marketing PR team, right, to augment their team. So the biggest thing you get is mass distribution. Yeah. Barnes and Nobles is going to sell your book.
Yeah. Amazon.
BAM, Amazon, all these people are going to sell your book. You self-publish, maybe. Yeah. And then that's one book and amongst how many books that are being self-published every day?
So maybe have a publisher and then you do the next one could be self-published because people will know who you are.
It can be. Yeah, it can be. And that's a possibility. It's a lot of work that goes along with that. But yeah, if your brand is big enough and you have a big enough social media following, then self-publish. But you got to think about it like this, like Howard Stern, his book came out last week. He went through a publisher.
Oh, wow.
Why is that? Because again, there's a lot of work that has to be done.
A lot of headaches.
If you're not, but again, I'm guarantee you Howard Stern's deal is like, well, if I let you publish my book, I want 30% or 40% or whatever. You know what I mean? So again, it's a trade-off, man. And for me, it was the wisest decision to make. The cool thing about it, I retain 100% of the film and TV rights. Yeah. That's part of my deal. So I'm getting 15% off of every book that's sold, but my vision, my goal is the film and TV industry. So if I own 100% of my film and TV rights, I could do TV shows, I could do movies, I could keep dragging that out and make a lot of money.
Do you want to get into acting at all?
I've done acting. I mean, I was in the Transformers the last night, and I was just.
But you want to get serious with it, where it's like that becomes like one of your main sources of income?
Nah. I mean, no.
You got the looks for it for sure.
Thank you, man. I mean,
no homo, dude, but I'm just saying, man.
I appreciate that, man. Nah, man, I've gotten opportunities. Yeah. I've done some work on SEAL Team for CBS. I just finished up on Michael Bay's last film with Ryan Reynolds called Six Underground. It's filmed in Italy and Abu Dhabi. I was mainly hired as a consultant, but I did do some acting on that. My thing with acting is like, if an opportunity comes to me, I'm not going to say no. Right. But I'm not going to go around town petitioning and auditioning and all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like going back to me, visionary, like there was a point where after I got Transformers, I was like, man, like, dude, I want to pursue this. I want to make more money. I got this opportunity. But then, as I begin to learn the business, I begin to learn that, trying to get in make it as an actor, the odds are pretty much against every single actor.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a million people who look like me, who sound like me, and who could deliver lines like I can.
Yeah.
So what is the way in? And one thing I learned about this industry is that content is king. Content is king. The way in is to be able to create something that a studio will buy. And then once you can create, there are people who are in the industry who, writers, I think there's a writer, Lena, she's an African-American. She's a writer on Chicago, this TV show she created called Chicago, and great writer. And she wrote this TV show, created it. And guess what? She was in Steven Spielberg's last movie. I forgot the name of it. Ready One Player. Right. Wow. She's in other stuff. I think she's now going to be in this HBO TV show about this robot. What's the TV show that Westworld? Yeah. Right. She got why? Because she created content. People came to her, and then it's like, at this point, what is it that you want to do? Like, you tell me what you want to do, right? Yeah. And so, like, just having a strategic mind in my dad's mind, like I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm having to chase people, chase jobs. I want to create stuff where people are like, yo, dude, what do you want to do?
Yep.
And that's one thing that happened when I had the meeting with the major studio. You know what they said to me? One of the guys in the meeting was like, hey, dude, like not only would I buy the rights to your film, do you want to play the lead role in your film? You know what I mean? That's something, that's a dream. Like there's millions of actors in Hollywood, like
struggling, just
trying to get it in. And for a executive at a studio who's a decision maker to say, do you want to play the lead role in your own movie? You know? Yeah. So that's the point I want to get to.
That's awesome.
If I'm going to act, you know what I mean? But I don't want to, no. Writing is my thing. Writing and producing, creating.
What's a legacy you want to leave? Like if you were to die today, what would you want to be remembered for?
Just a person that inspired people, a person that inspired positive transformation in people, a person who inspired people to recognize the potential and the greatness that they have within them, and they shared that. You know, that's why I wrote the book. Yep. You know, and I have the dedication in the book is dedicated to my kids and future generations. But again, I want people to recognize that, you know, dude, if I can accomplish it, you can accomplish it. You know what I'm saying? So that's the legacy that I hope I leave, is that, you know, I was just a loving dude who loved people, no matter their background, no matter, you know what I mean, where they came from, what they did, you know what I mean, whether I agree with them or not. I was always a person that loved people. And when you love somebody, it's something I try to teach young girls all the time when I speak to teenagers. I try to tell girls all the time, you know, if I say I love you, it's easier for me to tell you it's easier for me to tell you I love you than it is to show you I love you. Right? And how do I show you I love you? I show you I love you by my actions. That's what I tell teenage girls. So if I tell you I love you, but I'm just trying to get in your pants, I'm just trying to get something from you, I don't love you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what you need to hear in order to get what I want from you. I love myself. I don't love you. But if you tell me, I don't want to have sex, or I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, and I say, or not I, but another boy says, I respect that, like, and I love you, and I'm willing to wait, you know, to honor you and respect you, and you know, that's love, right? Love, you know, we show love through our actions more so through our words, and so what I mean by that is, like, I hope that people will see when I leave this earth, man, this dude Remi, he really loved people. He really loved people, and how he loved people was by giving himself. Was by his actions, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's
beautiful, man. I think that goes across even like with that lesson with the girls. It's also a lesson in business, right? I just had a situation even with my, you know, just who am I? I'm just a guy going around doing podcasts with amazing people, but like you meet people, and then through those people that you're meeting, you establish connections, man. You establish like a network of people that you really like look up to, and that like you got their numbers in your phone, and you can reach out to them. And I take it personally. It's like, dude, like I will give everything to you. You know, like I will do whatever I can to like promote you, to promote your brand, to do everything for you because I genuinely care.
Yeah.
And when it's not reciprocated, when like, you know, I got a phone call and it was like, hey, you know, this person's been talking trash or whatever about stuff that wasn't even true. I was like, wow, like someone's trying to derail like what I'm trying to do here. And it kind of broke my heart. It wasn't really even about being mad. It was more like
betrayed
and like, wow, man, like
disappointed.
I'm so disappointed. My wife's like, listen, like she has 2 degrees in psychology, so she's always, you know, coaching me up and stuff. And she's like, you know, listen, like it's nothing personal. Don't take it. That's just the way that person is. Like it's not. You don't need to take it personal. They treat you're no different than anybody else. They treat everyone that way. And I was like, no, but I don't roll that way. Like I'm as loyal as the day is long, man. It's like, and so when I get like backdoored on something, I'm like, man, like why would they do that to me?
I've been good to you. Why you?
For sure.
That's
the
way this business. I've had a lot of those experiences, man. It just sucks, man. But you know, like your wife is right. You know, it's like. It's not you, it's them.
Right.
You know, that's something I had to learn.
Yeah, and that's my goal of is trying to like build a network of people where it's like we all build each other up. Because you see it a lot, and I've said on another podcast where it seems like, especially in the veteran community, there's a lot of like dog eat dog kind of like they see someone being too successful or doing something too above of what they're you know makes them comfortable, and so they got to break you down and discredit your service or discredit like you as a person. And it's like, why, man? Like we should be building each other up, like helping each other out.
I agree 100%, man.
That's my goal anyway. I'm gonna ask you a couple questions that I ask everyone that comes on the podcast, and the first one being, if you had one person or one book your entire life that inspired you the most, what would that book be, and who would that person be, and why?
What would the book be and the person be?
Yeah,
for me, it's Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm a Christian, so my faith is a huge part of who I am, and you know, man, like I didn't have a father, and so. It wasn't until when I was 26, that's when I came to faith in Christ, you know what I mean? And that's when I really learned how to be a man, was by watching Jesus' life, you know what I mean? Watching it through the scriptures. So kind of twofold answer, through the Bible and through scriptures, you know, like seeing how he was with people, seeing how he was with women, seeing how he was just comforting the people, seeing how he was sacrificing himself for people, seeing how he was patient with people, just watching his life, you know what I mean, really helped teach me how to be a man, seeing his humility, his grace, you know, seeing how he wielded so much power. He had so much power, but he didn't lord it over people. He just wielded his power, but was just like a calm, cool, respectful man, you know what I mean? And so like, that for me is everything. And like every day, like that's how I try to live my life, by walking in his footsteps and, you know, and loving the way he loved and giving and being patient. And yeah, man.
Who brought you to it? Like, I mean, 26 years old. Were you still on the teams at that point?
Yeah.
So I got another question to that. So who brought you to it? And then I'll ask you the next question.
It was a combination of things, man. I think, you know, one, it was myself, honestly. I think because for a long period of time, I was a crazy dude, man. I was a really, really crazy. I kind of touched on a little bit of it about, you know, my pride getting the best of me. But even after that, man, I was just always like a super angry, aggressive, disrespectful, wild cat, you know? And I hit rock bottom, you know? And when I hit rock bottom, I was trying to fix myself. Like, I was like, okay, because the reason why I hit rock bottom was because of decisions that I made in the past. Yeah. And I was just like, you know, I'm gonna fix myself. I'm not gonna be like this anymore. I'm gonna be nice to people. I'm gonna treat my girl nice. I'm gonna treat my mom nice. And nothing I tried worked. And the more I tried to fix myself, the more I fell into a depression. Cause I'm just like, and here I have everything, right? I'm graduated from SEAL training. You know what I mean? I got good money. I'm living in San Diego. I got everything, but at the same time, I feel empty. And I'm depressed because I'm just like, why can't I be a better person? Why can't I act right? Yeah. And I finally reached that point where my brother, he had been a Christian for a long period of time. And I would fluctuate between atheism and agnosticism. Mm-hmm. And I remember I hated the fact that he was a Christian. I used to make fun of him, man. Like, I used to make fun of Christians, bro. I remember when I was walking down the street, and a girl would look at me, I would like make fun of people in the Bible, be like, man, that chick just looked at me like I was Jesus of Nazareth. Or that girl just parted the seas of the club like she was Moses, and she must have, like, I used to say all kinds of crazy, because that was just me. I didn't like faith in general. Right. And when my brother would tell me all the time, Remi, when you hit rock bottom, just remember, cry out to Jesus when you hit rock bottom. He would never preach at me. He would never like, you need to go to church. Because he knew that I was going to get with me.
He wasn't going to speak your language.
He wasn't going to do nothing to me. Yeah. And so, but he would just say, yo, just cry out to Jesus when you hit rock bottom. So when I finally hit that bottom, I was just like, all right, you know what I mean? Like, let me see if this Jesus man my brother's talking about is real. And if he's real, then something's going to change. If he's not real, nothing's going to change. And literally I prayed and it all changed.
Right.
It all changed. And for me, you know what I mean? Like, I immediately like stopped bugging out. Like, I stopped having sex, which is crazy because we talking, sometime I was 16, I was having sex. Like, it was also a lot of crazy stuff happened. Yeah. And so when the crazy stuff happened, when I started seeing miracles happen, that's when I was like, all right, this Jesus thing is real. Yep. You know what I mean? And so that's why, you know, that's when it happened for me.
So, I mean, is your wife also a Christian? Is that something that you raised your boys? You're going to raise your sons with that?
You know, that's an interesting question. You know, I'm not going to raise my kids, and this might sound crazy, I'm not going to raise my kids to be Christian, if that makes sense. I'm going to raise my kids to be followers of Christ, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Right? Man. Because there's a difference between the label and and the actions.
Totally.
You know what I'm saying? I'm a person of action, right? And so with my kids, the way I try to teach my kids is not like, you need to read the Bible, you need to pray, you need to do this. The way I try to teach my kids is by how I live my life. You know what I'm saying? Like my kids ask me, like, Daddy, what are you doing? I'm reading the Bible. Oh, cool. You know, Daddy, what are you doing? I'm praying. Can we pray? Like, I don't say, you need to pray. I'm like, you know, and they want to do it because they see me do it. But then at the same time, like, when I talk about integrity, you know, dude, like, you got to tell the truth. Don't lie to Daddy. But if I'm like lying, and what does that do? So, or if I'm like telling them you need to treat women a certain way, be respectful, honor them, don't be womanized and be crazy. But I'm over here being disrespectful to my wife. You know, that's hypocrisy. So the way I try to teach them, I try to model it. I try to raise them in a way where I'm modeling my faith for them, so they have an example, so they see. Yeah. And then so as they get older, then they can make their decision as to what they want to do. Because I think that that's a problem in a lot of churches, you know, across the country. I think that a lot of Christians and a lot of faith, sorry, I'm in general are kind of like this, where they force something on you.
Oh yeah.
Do this, do that. You got to do it this way. You got to do that. And it becomes so religious that when you get of age, you don't have nothing to do with it.
Yep.
Right. And so I don't subscribe to that. I've subscribed to the fact of you live it out, allow them to see it. And if your faith in Christ is real and they see the realness in it, then they will naturally want to follow.
Yeah.
But if it's fake, they're not going to want to have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it's kind of the experience that I had growing up, because my mom was wilding out, you know, being crazy. And so it was my stepdad, and then they found God, you know, and it was like they had hit their rock bottom, you know. Yeah. And so they went to the nth degree on it, you know, where it's like, you know, no, you know, only Christian music, you know, G-rated movies only. And you kind of lose your ability to be a free thinker at that point. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's almost like being indoctrinated, you know, just like you are in the military. Yeah. And so I definitely, as an adult, was a little disillusioned, you know? Yeah. Even as a dorm chief, even up to that point, I was 19 in boot camp, and I would read a Bible verse to all my men, like every single night. Yeah. So it was still a big part of it's still a big part of like my leadership style, still a big part of my life. And as I got older, I started to just kind of like pull away from, I don't think I pulled away from God ever. I think I pulled away from religion. And it was more because I felt there was a lot of judgments, a lot of like, you know, I walk around with my tattoos and things like that, and I would see people in the church like being like, who's this guy? You know? and I get some of that, because like I'll see dudes, even as a tattooed guy, you know, I'll see guys walking down the street with neck tattoos where I'm like, who's this scumbag? It's like, and here I am with tattoos. No, so I same thing, man. I really agree with that. I think that's a good way of doing it with your kids, because you just model that behavior. You don't need to tell them like how they need to live. You show them. And
it's crazy. My kids, like this morning, Daddy, can we go to church?
Yeah.
Like, I want to go to church, Daddy.
Yep.
Like, I'm like, nah, man, we can't go to church today. Well, because I'm leaving, and, you know, my wife is, you know, she got 3 kids and got stuff that going on. She couldn't go because of that. But they asked, I think that's the point, like, for any faith, you know what I mean? Like, you want your kids to be like, I want to pray.
Yep.
Like, you want to get them to that point.
Yeah.
Right? But how do you get them to that point? And just based off my experience, because my mom used to take me to a Baptist church when I was a kid, and I hated it.
Yeah, they're pretty extreme.
I hated it because I saw a lot of hypocrisy in the church. I think that's what eventually led to my atheism. And then also, you know, I didn't want to go, and it was just like this, you have to do because of this. Why? Don't ask me why. You just got to go. Not faulting my mom, but that's just the way things were at that time. And so I want my kids to just genuinely want to go, because they just feel the presence of God. They, you know, they feel like they're not being forced, you know what I mean? But, you know, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, but that's one of the ways that I think like with my 12-year-old, like I kind of failed him in a way, because as I've been growing, like he's been watching me grow, you know, because like I feel that's part of life. I need to evolve as a man and as a person. And so I went through the religious phase, then I went through the agnostic atheist phase, and now I'm in the phase of like accepting, like, I have this belief that I'm the luckiest person in the world. And I believe that I'm that luckiest person in the world because I think I'm blessed. Like, I really do think that there's something, God, archangels, whatever, that are around me all the time that have protected me like my whole entire life. And so everything always works out. I had like, my faith is unshakable. You know, my wife like even drives her nuts because she's like, well, how are we gonna get this done or get that done? I was like, it'll be okay.
The Lord's gonna work it out.
Trust me.
Yeah.
You know, like it'll be all right. And so no, I think that's beautiful, man. Yeah. But how did you reconcile some of like being in the team, some things that obviously that you guys have to do as a Navy SEAL? Mm-hmm. Did you have a hard time reconciling some of those things with being a religious person? Nah,
because one, I'm not a religious person. I think I'm a spiritual person.
Got it.
You know, in the Bible in Corinthians, Paul talks about the difference between spirituality and religion. You know, and just to sublimate it, religion is almost like religion is man's way to get to God. Spirituality is God's way to get to God. You know what I mean? And so I've never been religious. Like I read the Bible, I go to church, but to me, that's not religious. That's not religion. This is scriptures. It has eluded me, but in the scripture that speaks to it. But anyway, as a SEAL, because of my spirituality, it's more of a sin to me based off of what I've learned as a person of faith, reading the Bible, praying, to stand by and watch people kill innocent people.
Got it.
Or to watch somebody rape an innocent person, or rape a person, period.
Right.
Or somebody oppress or bully. And like ever since I was a kid, because of the way I grew up, I hate bullies.
Yep.
Hate bullies. And so the way I looked at my job is I'm the sheepdog, because you got 3 types of people in this world. You got wolves, sheep, and sheepdogs. That's just the reality of it. I mean, the wolves are the terrorists, the drug dealers, the mafia, the drug cartels, mass murderers, people who go into buildings and shoot innocent people. Like, those are the wolves. You're going to have wolves. As long as this earth is spinning, we're going to have wolves. They're sheep. Sheep are the everyday people, just minding their own business, trying to make a way, living life, not out there trying to harm anybody. Now, imagine this world with just sheep and wolves. Right?
Scary.
It's going to be a feeding frenzy.
Yep.
It's the reality of it. So there has to be a third group, and the third group are the sheepdogs. And the sheepdogs, the job of the sheepdog is to protect the sheep from the wolves. You got to have them.
Yep.
You got to have them. Romans 13:4 says, there's a scripture in the Bible, and it says the authorities are God's servants set for your good. But if you are doing wrong, of course you should be afraid, for they have the power to punish you. They are God's servants set for the very purpose of punishing those who do what is wrong. Even in Psalms 82, verse 3-4, it says, give justice to the poor and the orphan, uphold the rights of the oppressed and the destitute, rescue the poor and helpless, deliver them from the grasp of evil people. And so the scriptures talk a lot about the importance of protecting those who can't protect themselves. Not necessarily, I'm not talking about like the Crusaders going around just slaughtering people who don't bend to the knee of Christ or whatever. I ain't talking about that. That's crazy. Right. I ain't talking about jihadists who talking about, go, convert. I'm a kid. I ain't talking about that. That's crazy. I'm talking about protecting people.
Yep.
And so when I did my job as a SEAL, that's all I did. And listen, I can't talk about a lot of the stuff that I did, but I'm gonna tell you this: I've gone up against some very evil cats.
Yep. And
if I laid out who these people were and what they did, 99.9% of the people on the face of this planet are gonna be like, yeah, that's an evil dude. Right? I can't say that, And so I can't really go into detail about these people. But what I can say, for example, I went after a guy and he would recruit kids to be suicide bombers. Okay? And these kids would put on a vest, go into a mosque, go into a government building, go into a churches, and blow them kids.
Yep.
And blow themselves up and kill innocent people. Like, that's one of the guys I've gone after. Well, that's a guy I've gone after. Yeah. And I kind of share part of the story in the book because of the job I did, I really wanted to be careful of divulging information. So I really had to keep a lot of stuff tight and compact. But this particular guy who I'm talking about, when I went to go capture him, there was a guy's house he ran into. And this is the only guy in this area, I'm not even naming the country I was in because I can't even really talk about this kind of stuff, who stood up to him and said, I'm not hiding you. I know who you are. I know what you have done. He chases that guy. He chases this terrorist out of his house with a gun. because we were chasing him. He tried to hide in this guy's house. We eventually caught this guy, but hours later. What happened between the time he left this, and I say, we eventually caught this terrorist, but hours later, but what happened to the guy who wouldn't hide him, between the time the terrorist left his house and we caught him, he had made a phone call. I said, listen, I went to this dude's house. I asked him to hire me. He want to hire me and take care of it. A week later, this guy, his entire family was slaughtered. Wife, kids, nieces, nephews, slaughtered. Okay?
Yep.
That's evil, right?
Definitely.
This is the stuff that I've dealt with. You know what I mean? Yep. And I'm not referring to a war. I'm referring to this is the people I've dealt with and done with. You know what I mean? So what would happen if? So that's how I reconcile what I did.
So you have no issues with it? Like you don't have
No, I never had no issue. I think if you know how I would have an issue, if I personally stood by and was like, okay, do whatever you want to do.
Yep.
Then I would have an issue with myself.
Then you lose sleep at that point.
Then I would lose sleep. You know, if that guy who I went after, and I'm just speaking about one of many people, you know, if I let him walk the streets, if I let him do what he did, and I just said, you know what, it's okay, I don't want you just keep it. And yeah, I couldn't sleep.
Knowing what you know now and knowing what you've been through, would you want your sons going to the military?
They going to do something after they graduate high school. I'm not saying I don't want them to join the military. I'm just saying they ain't going to lay up on me.
But would you be okay with them going to the military?
Okay. Yeah. College, military, or start a business. That's their options. Like if they want to start a business, I'll give them seed money to start a business. If it's a great idea, they pitch it to me properly. I'm all about entrepreneurship. So that's an option that they have. Another option they have is college. The college is already paid for, so they have no excuse not to go to college,
right?
Because of my VA benefits, right. Or to join the military.
Yeah,
one of the three.
What's a book that you could share with people that really inspired you that you would like want to recommend it for people to read?
Oh man, you know I haven't read another book in a long period of time. I would say my book.
no, honestly, man, it's
I would
an
say my
amazing
book, man. I would say my book because I wrote it and I just read it about a month and a half ago when I was doing my audiobook read. So that's the last book I read that I would recommend.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The other question I want to ask you, man, if you had one lesson that you could teach the younger you, or that you could teach younger kids that are coming up, in the world, young soldiers, whatever. A lesson that you could teach them that could save them some of the heartache that you had to experience.
Teach them or teach me?
Teach them so they don't have to experience the same heartache that you did.
Yeah, there's a whole lot. I'll read the book, you get them all in there. But man, there's so many. I'm just floating in my head. I got to pinpoint one. It's okay to fail, dude. Like, no one is immune to failure.
Yep.
It's just the reality of it. You are going to fail.
For sure.
You're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. But don't let that failure define who you are or define your future. Instead, find the lessons within that failure that you could use for your future. That's just one thing, you know, because I think nowadays, you know, social media and all of this stuff, you know, kids see a lot of kids see the end result. They see B. They don't see the A to B process. They see B. And because all they see is B, and I get it all the time. I get people who say, oh man, like, dude, like, your life is amazing. Like, you're great. You've done it. You're a SEAL and acting and writing, like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and I want to be there. Like, I want to get there. I'm just like, yo, bro. I said, trust me. You said you want to get there? Yeah. I said, okay. Yeah, I'm living the dream, but I went through a whole lot of nightmares to get to this dream, right? And so often people see the dream and they think that that's easily attainable. And when they have a failure or setback, then they're just like, oh, this is not for me. Or maybe it's not meant to be. Or they quit, right? Yeah. But you're going to fail. And don't give up when you fail, man. That's the big thing, because it's going to happen. And whatever you do, man, I try to tell kids all the time, people all the time, man, don't, you know, the standard is here, but don't just meet the standard. You know what I mean? Exceed it, man. You gotta be willing. You gotta be willing to do whatever you're called to do with excellence. And that's what I try to do in everything I do. from writing to speaking. Like I prepare.
Right.
Like I prepare for everything that I do. You know what I mean? And I try not to put anything out into the space. Like even when I go on interviews, I prepare, because I want to make sure that when I get there, I'm not just giving it my all. I'm giving it more than my all. You know what I'm saying? So be prepared, and whatever you're called to do it with excellence.
I like it. I got two more questions I'm going to ask you real quick, and then we're going to sign off. Number one is, how does someone find their calling, do you say?
Self-examination, I would say. You find your calling by sitting down, taking an honest assessment of yourself. You sit down and let's say that it's something that you have an idea of. Oh, I want to be a basketball player. Okay. You ask yourself, why is it that I want to be a basketball player? Why is it that I want to be a football player? What is it about basketball that I love? What if I don't make it? And the reason why you want to ask yourself these questions is because what you're trying to do is you're trying to find your why. You're trying to find this deep-rooted emotional reason as to why you want to do it, right? Because when you face adversity on the journey to reaching that goal, if you don't have a deep-rooted emotional reason why, if you have a superficial reason, as soon as you face adversity, you're going to fall away, right? And I use SEAL training as an example. And SEAL training, my graduating class started with 270 guys. Only 29 guys graduated out of 270. To me, the reason why the 241 guys didn't make it was because to them, it was just a good idea, right? They just had a superficial reason as to why they wanted to do it. And as soon as they got put in that cold water, or as soon as they went on those long runs and they endured torture after torture, Hell Week, that good idea quickly turned into a bad idea, right? But for me, I had a deep-rooted emotional reason why, and that reason why was I had failed so much at life that I didn't want to fail again. That's not, I wanted to go on missions. I'm talking about my deep-rooted emotional reason why is I can't fail anymore, right? And when you have a deep-rooted emotional reason as to why you want to do something, when you face adversity, that's going to be your anchor. It's going to keep you from falling away. And so how do you find your calling? One, you do self-examine. You examine what it is that you examine yourself, and you examine what it is that you feel you're called to do. And then you find that why within it, because that you're going to need it to carry you through.
I dig it, man.
Yeah.
The last question I'm going to ask you is, if you take someone that is a kid in the Bronx, or a kid that's just, sitting on the couch and he wants to be a Navy SEAL, he wants to do something great. Is that a mindset that you believe that you can change? Can you change someone's mindset to get them from being like this lazy, not doing much, to being an overachiever?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Anything is possible.
How do you think you go about doing that? What's the best way of doing
that? How would I do it, or how does that person do it?
Both. How did you do it?
How did I do it? I just got off the couch and did it. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, you know what I mean? There is no mathematical equation to it. It's like if you want to change, you have to start. You have to initiate. You got to get out there and do it.
Some people are so stuck though. People get so stuck, and like when I try to tell people, like when I share my story of how I like recovered from my surgery with no pain pills and this and that, whatever. How did you do it? I say the same thing. I just did it.
You just do it.
And they're like, well, I mean, how did you get to point A to point B with your mindset? Your mindset is like definitely like sharper than some other people. They can't do that. Other they can, they're just choosing not to.
Yeah, it's a choice.
And I think it's conscious suffering. I think Mitch Aguiar talks about that, about conscious suffering and exposing yourself to the things that like suck really bad.
No, that's good. Now that a buddy of mine, talks about that. Nick Hayes, he has a company called Elite and Consulting, and he's big on, and I agree with him. And I think that's a big thing David Goggins talks about a lot is, if you want to punish yourself, beat yourself up, because the more you build up those calluses, the more, other things are going to be easier for you.
For sure.
Can that work? Absolutely.
Yeah.
That can work. Absolutely. I'm not completely opposed to it, but for me, it's just like, just get off the couch and do it. You just have to make a conscious decision to do it.
It becomes a habit, right?
It becomes a habit. You just got to be consistent. Consistency is key.
Yeah.
And again, I literally, what I did in my book was I laid out what I did to get from a person who was skinny, couldn't swim, didn't have the academic scores, to a person who got into SEAL training, became a frogman. Right? Like, and it's not rocket science.
Yep, for sure. You got to do the work.
Just got to do the work.
Well, hey man, I appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your story. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
I'm on social media, so Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all the same. Remi Adeleke. I was lucky I have a unique name, so I don't have to be the official Remi Adeleke. It's just Remi Adeleke, Remi. Right. And then a lot of people spell it with a Y, and then Adeleke. So yeah, you can hit me up on any of those social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
What's the best way for people to get your book?
Oh, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. Go on Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com. Go to a Barnes & Noble store. BAM, Indie Books, wherever books are sold, you can get it. Target, Walmart.
It's pretty cool because it's not every day you get an audio book. And because I'm a big fan of audiobooks, so like living in LA, it's like you spend a lot of time in the car and you get an audiobook with a book you want to read, and then it's not the author that's actually reading it, but in this one it is. So it makes it more real. It makes more like I told you, the suspense, like everything. Like, man, I'm in there with you, man. Like it's pretty cool.
Thanks.
So I seriously appreciate you coming on, man, and being willing to do this and share your story. And I'm super excited to see what's next for you, man.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the podcast, man. Thanks for making this work short notice, man.
For sure, brother. Take it easy, man.
Yes, sir. God bless.
Thank you for listening to My Backstory. Stay motivated and stay connected off the show. Follow at my_backstory_ to be a part of the journey to recovery and to see where your story goes. Or visit us online at hereismybackstory.com.